Hey everyone, David here, Director of Songs of War, bringing you the Season 2 commentary behind the scenes, this thing that I said I would do now that the series is unfortunately cancelled. But I'll be going through the script for Season 2, I got the script right here, I'm going to pull it up, we'll be talking about it. I'll be showing you some of the unused sets and kind of explaining some of the scenes for those who wanted to learn a little more about kind of how things would have looked. I know the script itself wasn't really like meant to be written. To be read. The script wasn't meant to be read, so there might be some confusions. So I'm going to jump into this now. This is going to be a very, very long video. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being like 2 hours or even more. So let's get started right away. The first thing I'm going to say before we get started is that I said in the cancellation video that you could watch this, Season 2 commentary after reading Season 2. However, I realized I'm actually going to be talking about Season 2 and Season 3 as I talk about the Season 2 stuff, because I kind of want to tie everything together and explain how some of the Season 2 stuff tied into the Season 3 thing. So you'll want to have read both Season 2 and Season 3. You can get the script in the... I'm actually not sure where you'll get the script. Maybe I'll put the link in the description of this video as well, but some of those files from the other video will need to be taken down. And then the second thing I want to say before we get started is the Discord. If you haven't already joined our Discord, you feel free to do so. We have a lot of cool Songs of War discussion stuff that goes on there. If you have more questions about the series or want to like post fan art or check out other people's fan art, definitely join that. A lot of cool stuff going on there. I also have a little Songs of War posts section where I make kind of little random posts and updates and stuff, despite the series not going anymore. So enough of that. Let's get started. This is going to be a really long script. Let's not waste any more time. I'm going to pull the script open and we're going to start going through things. Also, one thing, if you didn't know, if you have the navigation pane visible in like Microsoft Word, you can actually just jump straight to different episodes to get back to your place. So, Season 2, Episode 1. How was everything going to open up? Also, I should probably mention that I'll probably put timestamps to the different episodes in the description. So, if you want to come back to this, is because this video might be so long, you might want to kind of watch this video in pieces, or even just kind of listen to it. I'll definitely be showing a lot of stuff either in the world or even just pulling up like assets from the folder and showing them on screen. But regardless, if you want to listen to it, you can always just kind of drop in whenever I'm talking about something interesting. So check the description if you want to jump to episodes. So, Season 2, Episode 1 opens up not kind of how you expect it. You're expecting, okay, Season 1 ended on Mount Velgrin, the big final battle. Let's go to Mount Velgrin. And you're expecting, let's see what happens with Deathsinger and Zulius and all them. And what you'll be interested to notice is that it actually opens in a scene that's in the past. It's in a flashback. Jumping forward to Season 3, when the Deathsinger dies, spoiler alert, when Deathsinger dies, or slightly before he dies, and he passes the staff back to Sen, there was that bit where we really get to see Deathsinger's kind of backstory, and we learn that these kind of staves of the Ardoni, they are kind of like the master staffs of the Ardoni. They kind of carry like the memories of the previous master when they're passed over or whatever. And this moment here, when the previous master, Dominus Voltaris, was killed in the snow, passed the staff to Ingressus, made him the master, and then Dominus was killed. That was a big pivotal moment in the story, in Deathsinger's story, in the Voltaris story. We thought it'd be cool to open with that fight in the snow. I don't actually have a location for this. It would have just been some place in the snow in the north area. But we thought, let's open with that. Because of how crucial it is, we would have seen Thalius there briefly, who was the one who, he was the one who was there. He was the champion, using the prime songs to hunt the Voltaris. He would have killed Dominus or whatever, and Ingressus would have barely escaped. And that would have been a very cool way to open it, because you would have got this big fight with songs and stuff, seeing the master of the Voltaris clan using his songs against Thalius, wielding all 4 prime songs. That would have been an epic way to open the series, and much more interesting than the Mount Velgrin stuff. So we were going to focus on that in the opening, but then make it kind of mysterious, because at that time you wouldn't quite realize what it was. First of all, you wouldn't even realize it was in the past. It would have just been this kind of mystery thing. And then you see this really cool fight, and then you kind of realize, that was Ingressus. It was young Ingressus. He got the staff. What did that mean? Why was Thalius there killing him? And then, of course, throughout the series, you come back to it later and realize. But it was a flashback, and then it would show, when Ingressus falls off the edge, or whatever, and lands in the water, and then we see like little shots of him I think it said like shots of him doing the different little things. We see little flashes from his story where like the Tidesinger finds him and the tournament. So then it kind of fast forwards through his life, helps kind of refresh you on the Deathsinger stuff, everything he did, ends with him in the portal bit. So now we get to the Mount Velgrin stuff, and honestly, I'm going to skip almost all this because when we were talking about doing rewrites, we were actually going to cut almost this whole scene out. We realized we should just pull focus towards that opening song battle, make it really cool, then, go through his story, speed up, and then we're going to basically go right back to time to where we saw the Deathsinger come through the portal, basically end on that same shot before, and then we would have seen the Songs of War title come in, and then it would have been like 6 months later, and then gone past, and we would have skipped this whole bit. We realized this fight was kind of lame. It was kind of just like, Deathsinger didn't even have any of his songs, so there wouldn't be any songs in this battle. It would have been just a continuation of the previous stuff, all the assets, all the fire swords and stuff. That scene was kind of messy, so we were going to just cut all this, honestly. Literally, like, all this would have gotten cut, and we're really just focusing on that little kind of thing. And that would have been a little more mysterious then. We see him come through, we see him getting ready, then it cuts to black, then it skips 6 months later, and you would have been like, oh, what happened? Did he win? Did he kill them? Did Zuli survive? And then, of course, throughout the series, you'd realize, Deathsinger, Lucidius, Tiger, and they all won the fight. So fast forwarding, then we get to Ataraxia. Let's, I'm gonna need to, like, split this somehow. I'll just switch back and forth occasionally. So when we get to Ataraxia, we get, Sen training, 6 months has passed, at least. One thing in Songs of War is the time jumps never made perfect sense. If you try to look too much into them, you'll realize it never really makes much sense. But Sen and Gallius would have been training back here, and we would have gotten to see a nice montage of him doing all kinds of stuff, not just sword training, but I had all these different little ideas. We wrote down some little just ideas of different things, really showing that to wield the songs for an Ardoni, you really got to practice. You got to train. Gallius mentions that as well. It's not just like a physical thing. You don't have to be strong, but you also need to be like mentally disciplined, which we always thought was kind of cool. It's kind of like the whole thing with songs to me was kind of inspired by like classic Star Wars Jedi stuff. Like, to use the Force, you have to be, at peace and with a clear mind and, well trained and stuff. So we thought that'd be cool, seeing him actually doing the training and getting trained with Gallius. But then as we read on, we realize Gallius doesn't really want to train him to use the songs. He's been avoiding it. When Sen's like, when are we going to train? And Gallius has been kind of putting it off. And as you get through the series, you'll kind of realize that was the main difference between Gallius and Thalius, is that there was this problem in the past between Gallius and Thalius where, Sen here quotes Thalius' line, and then we see a little brief flashback of Thalius using that line against Gallius in some heated argument in the past. The idea behind this little scene was you can actually see Thalius activates his shockwave, and then Gallius snaps back to reality. The idea was that the last time Gallius and Thalius had been, together, last time they'd seen each other, last time they'd spoken, was over like an argument, over a fight. They were arguing over the use of songs and stuff because they never agreed on the songs. And then Thalius ended up actually in anger using his shockwave song against Gallius, and ended up actually hurting Gallius from the song, which even furthered Gallius' hatred of the songs. And that's why Gallius is so anti-songs, because he saw people like his own brother kind of overcome with power of songs, end up using it against Gallius, Thalius' brother, which goes into this whole, the songs were very corruptive and stuff. When you get to the end, you learn all the stuff that the Masters and Deathsinger did with the Prime songs. Those were the Prime songs, but even normal songs have this they kind of mess you up a little bit. So that's why Gallius was so anti-songs, and that's why Thalius and Gallius never really got along. That story actually goes back even further to, during the Great War. I think he mentions about how, during the Great War, Thalius wanted to use the songs and stuff. Gallius was trying to, stay safe and avoid the battles and whatnot. Anyway, so they train, blah blah. Messenger Bird, we get Merlin. I actually did have the little aviary up here. I think I mentioned this in one of the other behind the scenes, but I'll just show it again. There was this little aviary up here. That was like a little bird feeder. This is where it keeps his messenger birds. This is how the messenger birds, this is how Gallius gets all his information. He's got a bunch of messenger birds that fly around. They watch things. I was going to have them in Season 1. Didn't know what they'd look like. Skipped them. Let's move right along. I know I've already spent a really long time in these opening scenes. They're kind of important, though. Everything with the Deathsinger and the Voltara stuff is pretty important. Also, I'm going to take a quick drink of water. You have to excuse me that I'm not really going to edit this video because it's going to be so long. So then we get a cool Abigail fight. I'm going to warp over to Havenshire. And I'm going to set the time to night. I'm going to set time. Time set night. There we go. Maybe I'm not. I'm going to go back today. Just so you can see. Pretend it's nighttime. So we get to Havenshire. It's nighttime. We get to see kind of what Abigail's been up to. And the idea was that Abigail, over these 6 months and stuff, had been kind of raising Luna and started becoming almost like somewhat of like an anti-mercenary hunting down other mercenaries, namely Unyielding Legion. I think it was almost this kind of like revenge sort of story. This was actually a scene we added in pretty late. We realized her opening stuff was kind of lame. Nothing really had happened in those 6 months, so we thought it'd make more sense to transition into her like becoming this Ender Queen, this Ender Knight. We thought it makes sense that in those 6 months, rather than doing nothing, she spent that time also kind of doing training, practicing, getting better at the sword, getting better at the bow, learning all these, underworld secrets of the Unyielding Legion and other groups, not just them, but other bandit groups and stuff. Although we were also talking about recently potentially adjusting some of this, and I'll get to that later. We were talking about maybe making it less about the Unyielding Legion and working the Nether into the story more sooner. We realized that the Nether don't really show up till so late into the series. It's like the end of this season when they finally show up. And the Nether is so cool, we realized it was a shame that we neglected them in Season 1, so we were going to see if we could move them up sooner. But anyway, this is where they had the fight. That was the barn that burned down. That was the boat the guy gets away on. So he gets the Ender Eye. Merlin shows up. Merlin talks to him. Cool fight. Blah blah. We get to see that Luna can't use her flame stuff. She can't breathe fire. So we get a cool fight there, and then we get another fight. So we open with a crazy song fight with the the death of the last Voltar's master. Thalia's wielding the prime songs. Then we get to Abigail doing we get to Sen training in Ataraxia, beautiful Ataraxia montage with epic music, and then we get to Abigail hunting down mercenary groups with her dragon, and then you think, wow, that was a lot of action already in Season 2, and then we get more action, a huge battle between the Felden army and the Necromancers, the kind of one that wasn't seen last season. Instead of it just being that one attack, now it's a full-out war. We would have seen the war around here. I would have had to change things around. I was going to cut down a bunch of these trees, make it look like there's been like a big battle and just trees have been cut down. So we get here. We see that now the war is ongoing. It's not just like a single fight. They're having battle after battle. And right now the enemy Necromancers have taken Fort Zuka. They actually like burrowed underneath. There would have been like cave entrances around here and stuff where they had like burrowed underneath and pulled in. And then they took Fort Zuka, and then they like closed the gate, and now the actual army is now outside their own base trying to get back in. And then we see Nika kind of go acrobatics in here. She was going to come in. There's a little blacksmith around here. Yeah, she's going to like come in here or something. And then she was hunting the Necro Lord. Comes in here and doesn't see him, whatever. He shows up behind her and then does the cool Season 1, Episode 1 cliffhanger. The first episode ends on a pretty cool cliffhanger with her like becoming what we called Dark Nika, which was basically the idea that these necrostaves, yes, they can control the undead, but I always had the idea that in Minecraft, there's the withers have those skulls they shoot out, but they don't just do damage, they do the kind of wither effect. For me, I thought in Songs of War, the wither effect alone would have been kind of lame. It would be like, oh, it's damage over time. That's not really like a real thing. So for me, I thought, okay, maybe the wither effect would be more of like an indoctrination. If you get hit by that skull, the smoke cloud kind of covers you, and then you kind of get indoctrinated. Your eyes start glowing like the zombies would. And if you remember in Animation Life 2 at the beginning, I had someone throw in a little necromancer skull thing, and the little black smoke consumed him. That was kind of like a little practice test for this. So he would have thrown a little staff out. Thrown a little skull out. It would have kind of popped into like that kind of withery effect that the withers do, and then he would have used the staff while she was kind of overcome with that wither effect to then control her. And then we would have gotten her eyes opening in white. Boom, cut to the end. And you can see now why I was so excited for Season 2, and why I was so bummed that we didn't get to do Season 2, and why it's just things just didn't align. Because in one episode, it was just like excitement, followed by like dramatic moments, followed by a cliffhanger that's really interesting with someone you care about. Season 1 was cool, but the episode 1 cliffhanger wasn't that big. Like, we didn't know Hawken that much. We had only just met Thalias, and he jumped away and he survived, and he's all good. But here it's like, oh, I can't wait to see Luke and Anika's story in Season 2. Then at the end of the first episode, her eyes are glowing, and it makes you wonder, like, oh, what's going to happen next? I would have really been looking forward to, like, reaction videos and reading all the discussion after this episode, between all the excitement and the cliffhanger. Let's move right along. And Sen and his training. Right, so then Gallius is like, yo, I want to get someone else to train you, man. Because, I skipped over the scene where they talked at night. Yeah, how did I miss that? Oh, I must have just scrolled past it. There was a little bit earlier, just kind of rewinding a bit before that little bit at the end, where, and there's not much to say about that. There's the bit where Gallius took Sen out at night. We would have got to see Ataraxia at night, which would have been really pretty. It made these little parks and spaces, and they would have kind of walked down to, and the light would have been like shining off their little pond and stuff. And he was talking about how he wouldn't use the songs, and he kind of opens up about that. And then he talks about how he's going to get someone else to instruct Sen, because he doesn't want to do that anymore. So then, yeah, season 2, episode 2, we get Sen up here, all the way up at the shrine. You got to do this, like, climbing the Ikminanaya or whatever from Avatar kind of thing, climbing up the thing, get to the shrine, and then he's expecting, like, oh, where's my instructor? He's not here, whatever, expecting it to be some other dude. And then insert Val comes flying in. She's flying, using her cool flying song. She's like flying around with a nice kind of view, and then she flies up, lands, and you get a cool reveal of her wings. And Val was interesting to me a lot because of the kind of expectation of, like, oh, you have a new song instructor, and you're kind of expecting it to be some wise old guru guy. But it's actually someone much younger and a female. First time we've seen an Ardoni female except for Rhea. First time in a long time. First time in Season 2. And I do have a little render of Val. I'll pull that open real quick, although it's kind of old. All the character renders I have is, or all the character renders are really old. You can see they're like the old rigs, the old faces. It's before it had like the female dots and stuff. But this was Val's design. She's pink, which is funny because Val is the entire reason the Mendoris clan is pink. We wanted Val, we were thinking about like what colors they'd be, and we were like, oh, best for her to be kind of pink. She's a little more feminine. But we'll have to make a whole clan just so we can have pink. We'll just make a whole Mendoris clan just so we can have a pink character, and she'll be the only notable Mendoris character. And she also had these really cool arm blades, which were in need of a rework. We were going to actually redesign them and make them a little smaller. They got a little excessively large, but the idea that they were like these backwards-facing arm blades, so she can kind of like jump out and hold them like backwards, so it seems a little more aerodynamic as she's flying. So she was a cool character. Also, one thing you'll notice was this was kind of like a little random accident that was going to get worked into the script but didn't, is that if you get Sen and Val side by side, Sen's got his kind of markings going down one half, Val's got her markings go down the other half, and there's going to be this little scene later, I was going to work in this, I had the dialogue in, I moved it and disappeared, where Val and Sen get a little flirty, not too flirty, but a little later on, they're like, she's teaching him how to like do some of the songs, and they're getting a little kind of rebellious, they're like doing the songs when they shouldn't and stuff. There's going to be a bit where she mentions that their markings like kind of match up. If they sit side by side, one of them kind of goes down and combines, which I thought was kind of a nice little flirty moment between them. So at this point, you really start thinking like, oh, you know, as most people do, oh, I shipped them or whatever. So then it really kind of makes you think, okay, Rhea's gone, Val's maybe the new person, and Rhea really is gone. We haven't seen her at all. But of course, as you know, that was still part of the misdirection. She still is out there. So Val is the one who trains him to use the songs. We finally learn how the songs work with these shrines and how they put them in the shrines and then they kind of like harness the power. But it's very hard to do, and Sen passes out the first time. Blah 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 blah. Sen passes out. Down in the blacksmith, Gallius is talking, and then Abigail shows up. And first time Abigail followed the messenger bird Merlin, and then now Abigail's here. Abigail talks to Gallius. Nice little area down here is going to use. There's a pretty spot right here. They're going to talk. Nice kind of area overlooking it. Talk about the end and stuff. While Sen's back here working in the forge. And I also like that was a cool idea. I don't know if people really caught on that. That in Season 1 we saw Sen like making weapons, working with weapons. He had like a little weapon area back in his place. And then now he works here with Gallius. And Gallius is also like a blacksmith. So nicely enough, he's able to like help out around the blacksmith and stuff because he actually has those skills. So he's kind of doing work helping Gallius. Gallius in turn is kind of helping train him and teach him and stuff and house him. So they talk about the end stuff and the Abigail and the crown and all that whatnot, and how the Ender Knights were like, they're people. This is where you finally get the reveal that Ender Knights, they're just people, they're just humans. I didn't want to tell people that last season because people might start thinking too much into it and be like, oh, well then Abigail must be an Ender Knight. But the idea is that like you're not born an Ender Knight. There's not a race of Ender Knights. Ender Knights are just normal people who just kind of happen to be what I was calling kind of chosen by the end, which isn't really like a Destiny thing, more of like a if fates align. In her case, she was the one who randomly ran into the egg. At first, she wasn't chosen. At the moment when she found the egg in the woods, she wasn't an Ender Knight at all. She wasn't even chosen by the End or anything. She's just a random farmer. It wasn't until the point when like she went after and tried to protect it and try to keep it from being taken, that was when the egg finally illuminated and it started kind of connecting with her and seeing if she would be the one to raise this new generation or whatever. Zoom in. Blah blah da blah da booba da. Fan out. Look for tunnel breaches. This random line here I gotta mention just because I wonder if I can play audio. This might not work. I'm gonna give it a try though. Let me actually see if my... Oh, I can Oh yeah, my desktop audio is going. I'm gonna play this really fast just because you gotta hear this. There was this line here we thought sounded like Nathan Fillion, the way Kyoshi said it. So we always had this like weird... we just call him like Nathan Fillion. We just call him Fillion as like a little kind of inside thing. Let me see if I can...
Fan out. Look for tunnel breaches.
Doesn't that sound like Nathan Fillion? I don't know if that came through. I'm gonna play it one more time. Actually, no, wait. Oh, no, it wasn't this take.
Fan out. Look for tunnel breaches.
Maybe it was a little bit. No, I swear that there's another one. I don't know if that came through. There's another take of that line. I don't think it was actually that one, where he really just sounded straight up like Nathan Fillion. That one a little bit as well. So there's a funny little inside joke. If you want to look through all the dialogue, maybe you might find the one I was talking about. Or it might have been that one. I don't know. So yeah, we always joked that he was kind of Nathan Fillion in the series, which is cool because we liked his character and we liked his voice actor and it all worked out. So anyway, they go back into Fort Zuka and Dark Nika battle, which is going to be really cool. I was looking forward to so many of the fights in Season 2. I'll go back to set time. There we go. I was looking forward to so many of the fights in Season 2 because by now it's like characters we know, characters we care about. And it would have been really cool seeing someone like Nika, who's like a good character, now fighting Lucan in this weird indoctrinated, like glowing eyes, evil mode. You know, the Dark Nika versus Lucan. Obviously, Nika is a way better fighter than Lucan, starts beating Lucan like crazy. Lucan's actually like, oh no, you know, I'm get killed by Nika. And then Kyoshi shows up, and then Kyoshi goes up against Dark Nika, and being a really good fighter, he is able to hold up against her, and then she backs off. So that would have been a really cool fight, seeing Kyoshi like a 1v1 against Nika, and Lucan 1v1 against Nika and stuff. Alas. Anyway, good old dialogue between Lucan and Kyoshi and stuff. I really liked Kyoshi. I feel like he was a very underappreciated character. I haven't seen many people like talking about him. For me, he was one of the characters I really liked the most in Season 2. In Season 1, we didn't really see him too much. Season 2, we really get to see all his struggles, and we see why he's always kind of so stressed and stuff, because he's got the weight of this whole war on him. If every loss they're making, every time they advance, it's all on him, and he's really trying his hardest, trying to like hold up against it. He goes recruiting in the episode coming up soon, and no one wants to join. Everyone's like hesitant to help, but he is still like a cool guy. You know, he reaches down, helps Lucan up. He's not a jerk. He's a little bit harsh on Lucan just because Lucan, you know, honestly kind of deserves it, considering Lucan's like a criminal and Kyoshi's had to deal with him a lot in the past. But he still helps him out. He's still very respectful and stuff, which I like about Kyoshi. So then they're in like a little battle camp talking about how they're losing everything. Kyoshi mentions how they're going to be getting a chronicler. Kyoshi makes some little comment, takes Lucan off. They get in a cool fight. So once again, we get another kind of fight. Now we get a fight between... We just had a cool fight between, you know, protagonists. being like the Dark Nika versus them. Now we get another fight between protagonists. Kyoshi and Lucan get in a fist fight together, which wouldn't have been as, visually stunning. It's just them fighting, but I think these are the fights I feel like would be more memorable because it was like, oh wow, these are two characters who are both protagonists fighting each other. Lucan's kind of fighting for what he believes in, Nika, who he cares about. Kyoshi's kind of fighting for the respect and and Kyoshi's right here. Kyoshi's like, yeah, we lost one person down there, but this next city is like under attack. There's hundreds of people there that we need to get to and defend and protect them. Kyoshi obviously ended up winning, but it was a good try. Helps build both their characters, I think, in that little scuffle. Kyoshi was respectful about it too. I think he was even like, at the end, Kyoshi's even like, go see to it. He's cared for. So, Kyoshi's a good guy. Then there's a little bit where Sen and Val kind of hanging out, talking about songs and stuff. Again, she ends up firing one off, even though she shouldn't. They kind of fly off, and then Val here starts giving the where is it? Yeah, she starts talking a little bit about the war, and the war is happening. And then this is where Sen starts really getting the idea that, okay, maybe this training, while it's like helpful, the real battle's out there. The real battle's there now. The training's helpful, but you got to start doing something now. The Voltaire's out there potentially going after other clans and stuff, which is interesting because now I get the point where I kind of mention, if I fast forward to the whole like Ria, Sen and Ria, both had their village destroyed, but they each went down a very different route. Sen ended up going a very formal training route. He met Gallius, got physical training and mental training, met Val, got some of the song training. Ria, on the other hand, the idea between Ria was that when she escaped using her Mobilium song, which I'll say it now before I forget. If you remember in episode 2, season 1, episode 2, they go out to the shrine at night and she's holding the song. Now that you know what the shrines do, like you use these shrines to like put the songs in. Now you can actually realize why Ria was just randomly walking out at night with the song heading to the shrine. It wasn't just for, random purposes. She was getting out here, going to see if she could try to use the song, wield it, and start using the song. So she was eager, and then Sen came out as well, also thinking the same thing. Unfortunately, Sen got interrupted, had to go on the journey, never got a chance to use it. Whereas the idea was then, as soon as Sen left, Ria would have gone back and started every night trying to use the song again, and she would have eventually done it, started practicing with it, and she would have gotten just good enough to kind of use it a little bit to move, and that was how she had the mobility one, so she was able to escape the Voltaire's battle. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So then, after the battle here, the idea would have been Ria, probably, I think she went to Nestoria. She went to the Nestoris clan. That's where she would have met Hubris. She survived, made it to the nearest clan, realized that clan didn't really want to do stuff too much about it at the time. Maybe that was around the time of like the council meeting and stuff. Realized, okay, they're kind of going to war, but she thought the war was bigger than just like a single battle. She realized all the stuff that was coming back, like Thalius had been warning. So no one really believing in her, except for Hubris. She basically started the Knights of Ardonia, this small group. Hubris was the first one to kind of join, and then her and Hubris went out and started trying to recruit new people. Hubris went to Ataraxia, where a bunch of other Ardoni were, some more like-minded Ardoni, and then Hubris went trying to recruit for Ria's Knights of Ardonia in Ataraxia, and then now you realize, oh man, Sen was so close to joining up with Ria at the end of Season 1. He was right here. Hubris was asking, but he didn't realize Ria was involved. Turned it down. He was that close to joining up with Ria, and together they would have gone after the Voltaire's, done their own training. So anyway, so the idea was that Ria kind of did this more very hands-on, train now by practice, like just join it, do it, start going after Voltaire's, you'll learn on the field, whereas Sen ended up kind of getting here even more formal training with Gallius and stuff. But anyway, then Sen ends up kind of realizing that. Somehow I skipped the Igneous stuff. Let me rewind a little bit. Somehow I must have scrolled right past that. Meanwhile, back in Meridian, there would have been a bit where I'm going to take another swig of water real quick. Oh, my bottle cap's already open. Yeah, sorry. I don't want to edit this video because it's going to be so long, so I'm just kind of gonna have to drink water while I talk. Excuse me. We're not even 2 episodes in, my throat already hurts. This is gonna be a problem. Yeah, so we got to the port. Igneous arrives in Meridian, cool desert city. Talks to Aaron the Fletcher. Aaron the Fletcher agrees to help. They get to the Carthan Wall, which is really cool visually an interesting place. This was like the wall that was made once the kingdoms kind of started getting into a little civil war, where they just built this huge wall and kind of flattened this area. So then it's kind of where the transition is, and you can't get into Carthen because this huge wall that's protected and defended. But then they end up going over the mountain, and Igneous makes it to Tartarus, to the front of Tartarus. And right now, we're on episode 2. This was, yeah, what episode are we on? This is episode 2, right? Yeah. Yeah, right now it ends with Igneous just going in, he comes to Tartarus, goes in the main gate, and he would have arrived inside the city. But we were going to change that. This is what I was talking about, some of the endings were messed up. That wasn't going to be the ending. That wasn't really much of a cliffhanger ending. The ending we were going to make the bit where Sen leaves. Sen would have been talking with Val. Val had been talking about this whole, like, the war's out there now and stuff. And then Sen would have left, done his little scene where he talks to Gallius, sets out, and he sets out trying to find and join the Knights. And that would have been a better ending for the second episode, because it's like, oh, you know, in the first episode, we ended with him like, oh, he's at Ataraxia, he's training. Then by the end of the next episode, it's like, no, now he's leaving the training behind, trying to join the real battle. What's going to happen next? Who's he going to meet? Who's going to be the Knights of Ardonia? And will they do stuff? So that would have been a better ending. Anyway, Igneous makes it to Tartarus. We were also talking about adding some more stuff with Igneous. So now, while I'm on the Igneous story, that was one of the stories that needed a little bit of rewrites. We realized we spent so long focusing on, like, the Civil War, the kind of stuff between Cydonia and Carthen, Igneous learning all the questions about it and stuff. We realized we didn't actually get to spend much time with Igneous, or, like, learn anything new about Igneous, or have Igneous learn anything new about Magnarites or his people. So we realized we wanted to spend a little more time with Igneous, or at least use the existing time to kind of focus it more on Igneous as the character. So you'll notice that Igneous kind of just went here, asked some questions, did some stuff, and died a few episodes later. Whereas that wasn't going to be the case. However, although we wanted to add more stuff with Igneous, at the same time, when we were considering doing Season 2, we were like, we're going to have to cut a lot of stuff because of, you know, how the series is performing. We're going to have to make it shorter, quicker to make, cut all the scenes we can. So we were also looking at Igneous scenes that we were going to have to cut to keep things more concise. And now you kind of really see even more reasons why we didn't want to do Season 2. If we were going to have to be, like, cutting scenes away on a story where we really felt like needed more scenes, that's even worse. Now we got even less time with the characters, and it would have even been more of a, oh wow, he died before we got to do anything. Anyway, let's move right along. Episode 3. Pinkelson Farm. I think it's called Pinkelson Farm. Yep. Denny Pinkelson. Which was a lot of weird little inside jokes with this stuff. So the character Denny was named after the musician Denny Schneidermeister, one of the old musicians we like a lot, and we listen to a lot of stuff. We used to use his music in Machinimas a bunch. He had a track called Thunderdome. Thunderdome ended up being the name of, you know, the second dragon from later on, which ends up becoming Denny's dragon because Denny wrote the song Thunderdome. So there's weird little Easter eggs between that. Also, the name Pinkelson was kind of a reference to Pinkerton, which was a Clay World episode, John Pinkerton, which then we made Denny's brother John, so his brother could be John Pinkerton. But we changed it to Pinkelson, make it a little different. But then we got the little John Pinkelson. We never say John Pinkelson. That was the reference. I'm sure no one knows what I just said, but in case you do, now you've got that explained. Anyway, this episode opens up with another fight. We get to see, this is the first time in the series we really just see, like, normal people in the world of Ardonia defending against normal undead. There's no big fantasy stuff, there's no songs, it's just seeing the undead that come out at night still, especially at places like farms and stuff. So we have to see them defend against the undead, which I thought was kind of cool for change. We get to meet Rusty, the Iron Golem. We had a while coming up with that name, because the whole idea between the Pinkelsons are they're very poor, despite having a big farm, mainly because they just keep getting gypped. It's the kind of idea that, like, there's the really rich Hyperia and Diamond Heights and stuff, and they get all the food, but they really underpay them, overwork them and stuff. Like, you think they should be earning more money, but they're constantly, like, not. So we thought their Iron Golem would also kind of go into this idea of it's kind of hand-me-down, a little used, and then we thought the name Rusty would be perfect. And he would actually be like kind of rusty. When he moves, you'd hear this kind of like squeaking, like he needs to get oiled and stuff, which I thought would have been funny. Good old Rusty. Rusty helps defend, but then Luna and Abigail show up. We see John's pretty good at defending. Denny kind of sucks at defending. He's kind of clumsy. So then Abigail shows up. You think, oh, John, yeah, he's the Ender Knight. I can see why those shows and your fighting skills are great. And then, oh, wait, what? No, it's Denny. So then Denny is the actual Ender Knight, and everyone's kind of surprised, which is good because we get to meet a character who's not like a fighter. He's not a fighter. He's just some kind of silly guy. He's more into like food and stuff. Blah 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 blah. They go along, and that was kind of also the idea with when you get to the end, you'll notice all these different kind of characters were chosen for their different like skills. They didn't want just like 5 fighters. They're trying to build like a whole end generation, and so some of these people, it's like, oh, Denny's really good with like food and cooking and stuff. That'll be useful to have. There's Saxon and Trevor. They got like potions and enchanting, all these different things that'll be good to kind of have a bit of everything. But he's not much of a fighter. Yeah. So fighting at the farm. Kind of flew around for the farm moment. You got to kind of see it. They would have had out in the morning. And then this is where we get Sen leaving. But like I said, I was gonna kind of move that to the previous episode. Gallius sees him off. Val, there's also a nice little bit where Val was kind of floating at the floating. She was Val was like up on a little floating island, watching, and then Val's kind of happy seeing that Sen's going off and getting to do what he really should be doing and stuff and wanted to do. Also, I noticed I didn't really mention too much. I guess I did say in the script, but Val was a previous student of Gallius, and Val also wasn't trained to use the songs by Gallius. Gallius didn't want to train her either, so he had sent Val back to Mendoria to train for the songs back in Mendoria. That's why she had to kind of fly back here. But she was a previous student of Gallius, and they respect each other and stuff. Here's the bit where they leave in the morning. He makes his trademark little mushroom soup. We were looking through Minecraft things, just thinking of what things could be. Oh, I gotta show you Denny's sword. Or, should I say the lack of. We had, oh, do I even have that anymore? I hope I have this. Hold on a second. I'm gonna start looking for this. I'm in another folder right now. Actually, I can just pull some of this stuff out. Weapon textures. Please tell me I got Denny's sword. Denny. There it is. Yeah, so we wanted his sword to also be kind of hand-me-down. It's got like a chip in it. It's kind of broken. But for a long time, we didn't know how chipped up it should be. So we were trying all these different, where is it? Like different ways of making it look kind of hand-me-down. Where's my weapons? Come on. Too many folders. There it is. Yeah, so there's a bit where we tried like really banged up. We tried kind of multiple cuts in it, and then eventually we were like, oh man, it's so hand-me-down, it's just straight up broken. It's just cracked and bent at a horrible angle. But that would have been funny. But alas, we didn't go down that route. Anyway, so yeah, he was the mushroom soup guy. That was just kind of his little thing. He just made little Minecraft soups. We're just trying to look for things in Minecraft that we could use. Oh, here we go. Sits down and listen. Where is it? Hold on. He sits down and listens. That was a huge inside joke between Sam and I. We were coming up with some of the story stuff early on. Like when we did a lot of the early story stuff before the actual dialogue and writing was written, before Badger came in. And when we were at this point in the story, we're like, what's Igneous going to do here? He's going to go to a tavern. He's maybe like, he needs to get information. He's in Tartarus. Anything could happen at this point. We didn't know exactly where the story was going. We just knew how it needed to end. So we're like, the first thing that would probably happen if you went to this random place to get information, go to a tavern. You go to a tavern, you'd find some information. So you'd go to the tavern, you'd sit down, and you'd listen. And we couldn't think of what would happen next. We got so stuck on that bit for so long, multiple days. We kept coming back to it days after day. We'd kind of go brainstorm other stuff, figure other things out, but we kept coming back to this scene. And it'd always go, Igneous sits down and listens. And then we just stopped. None of us would know what would happen next. We had all these different ideas where he'd like overhear something would break out, maybe he'd do something, and we never knew. Finally ended up just being simple that we wanted to show Magnarites being Magnarites also get an opportunity to introduce Malachi briefly here, which this scene was also going to get rewritten a little bit. We wanted to make Malachi a little more interesting in this scene, but we wanted to introduce Malachi here, not yet realizing he is the main leader until, after this fight's over and Borgin explains it. But introducing Malachi as like the strong top Magnarite, introducing the kind of Magnarites fighting each other and stuff like they tend to do, and having Igneous try to stand up and then get beaten up. So Borgin Slaveman. That's another joke I'll probably have to explain. So his name is Borgin, but for some reason it sounded like Morgan Freeman. So what's the opposite of Morgan Freeman? Borgin Slaveman. So his name just kind of became Borgin Slaveman. That's not canon though. Don't go writing that in the wiki. But his name is Borgin Slaveman. That's just what it is. Yeah. So Igneous, being silly, thanks for your help, walks off. Don't you want to know where it is? Yeah, right. So the Knights of Ardonia, the KOA hideout. I think it's going to spawn me inside. Yep. How do I get outside? Beep, bop, boop. There it is. Okay. So Sen would have taken Timber, kind of got off Timber for a bit here. Timber would have still at the stable. Still has Timber. Timber's still coming along. Comes over here. Realizes it's a dead end, but then Masani would have been up here with her bow. There's a little bit, there's like nice little... I just tried to turn my flashlight on. I tried throwing a flare, thinking this was Deep Rock Galactic. I went into a cave. It was dark. I pressed F, hoping to throw a flare on the ground so I could see. I'm playing too much that. Masani would have come up here with her bow. We would have introduced her. Then Onyx would have come out of, I don't know where. He would have been kind of just like come out from behind. And then Onyx and Masani were guarding the gate, saw him approaching, wondering who the heck he was. They start kind of wondering, like, oh, you're clanless and stuff. Who are you? You a spy or something? Fun little fact about Onyx and Masani. Initially, like way initially, that was going to be Nitrox and Naya. This is like back in like survival games era. I was like, oh, I should work in Nitrox and Naya, have them as characters. But when I got closer to writing it, I realized I wanted to actually write them a lot of dialogue, give them moments, give them characters, and it might be weird forcing Nitrox to voice if he necessarily didn't want to. Also might be weird giving Naya a voice if Naya never really had a voice. Might be weird suddenly having her speak. Also, I realized it might kind of limit me if I want to like have the characters die or something, then they'd be dead, so that'd be weird. So I had to end up swapping them so that Nitrox became Onyx, Naya became Masani. And the idea of Onyx was an opportunity to see a Magnarite who's really just a Magnarite. He's a Magnarite like they say Magnarites are, where he's kind of aggressive, he's a little bit confrontational, he kind of gets into arguments easily for the sake of getting into arguments. But he's not a bad guy. He's another protagonist. He's on their side. He's helping them out. He's a little rough on Sen right at the beginning, mainly just to show off and kind of boost his own ego. But then we do see later on, there's a bit later in this episode where Onyx is actually respecting Sen's craftsmanship on the sword, talking about how Magnarites a lot of them are forgers and make weapons and stuff, and how, even for his standards, that Sen's weapon was good. So Onyx is not a bad guy. He's just he's just a Magnarite. That's kind of what Magnarites are. Then we get Hubris and Stories. Hubris shows back up. Good old Hubris. I like Hubris a lot. He's a simple character, but he's simple and effective, I think. He works well. Introducing them to other characters. We get a big old Onyx who's like walking right over Sen's shoulder the whole time. Really big, kind of glaring. Masani, who's a very quiet one. She hardly has any lines. That's just kind of her very quiet, introverted self. And then Grim. Wow, 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 wow. I can do the Grim sounds now while I'm doing it. Anyway, yeah, Grim's alive, and that was the kind of surprise that Grim comes back at the end of season 2 or season 1. I was like, don't worry, Grim will be back. But this was the whole, like, we didn't realize Grim was gonna be so exciting. We thought like, oh, you just see him in season 1, he'd be this kind of weirdo, then he'd get left behind. But he comes back, yeah, and then people liked him so much, they're like, oh, why didn't he have like a conclusive scene and stuff? So the idea would have been Grim now kind of wandering in alone again, must have been recruited by this group, realized that this group was like, they're after some pretty interesting stuff. They want to bring the fight to all the enemies of Ardonia, not just the Voltaris and stuff. And then Grim, looking for the action, looking for the opportunity, decided to join. You can also see why other characters like Grek in a moment would have also been eager to join this group, because someone like Grek, who needs to kill and fight a bunch to live, is looking for these kind of opportunities, these kind of groups that can get a lot of action and stuff. Anyway, so Grimm's here. Masani doesn't speak. Oh, so let me go back to the thing. So in here we've got a, where is it? Beep. We got a little hidden door. And if we come in, I keep holding shift to sprint. Almost every other game is shift to sprint. This game's control. Control should be crouched. Nice little caves. And we have their little, oh god, so this is glitching out, whatever. Their little kind of planning table. We actually had, we were gonna, in the actual episodes and stuff, put all these different maps up, like they were kind of plotting the Voltaris' movements and stuff and whatnot. Nice, nice cave. Actually, we made a lot of adjustments to this cave near the end. These things were added a lot later to let some kind of light come in. Here's their area where they sit around the fire later and talk about their weapons. They got little sleeping corridors and stuff up here. A lot of stuff in here. Nice little detailed area. And then if we go up here, we got a this is a little back door where they do their little kind of training stuff out back. This is where they would have been. They would have had some horses stuff tied up out here. That's where Timber would have ended up staying. And this is where they ride off from. So then Onyx takes Sen out back, and we meet Grek, who is probably my favorite character of the whole series. Even, I don't know, I have a lot of characters I like a lot. I like him, I like Deathsinger, I like Volcanus. All three of them are really interesting. Grek tends to be my favorite just because he's so fun. He was so much fun to write. He's so interesting to write because he's just so beyond like everyone else's level of kind of combat skill. But he's not like rude or anything. He's very kind of fun. He's very just kind of friendly. He becomes like the kind of bro character for Sen. Him and Sen kind of, you know, he looks after Sen kind of looks after Grek and stuff. I had also been considering Grek was going to have some story stuff post season 3. I wanted to do this little spin-off story with Grek, looking for the other Jags. Sen would have helped and stuff, and it would have been like a nice little duo between them. Grek also had this kind of relationship with Hubris. Not that kind of relationship. Don't start doing shippy fan art. But he had this kind of dynamic with Hubris where they must have known each other because Hubris and Grek, they're often together. They're often like going in as a team. But it's funny because Hubris is very like stern, very straightforward, no jokes and stuff. And then Grek is very super casual, jokes all the... Oh, there's the little horse area. They put the horses. Grek's very like joking all the time and not taking things seriously, which was a really interesting dynamic. And that was one of the reasons season 3 opens with them two together, just because they had such a good dynamic. So the idea would have been, Rhea would have gone to Nestoria, Hubris would have been the first to join, Hubris would have gone, met up with Grek, someone he had met in the past or someone he had known, and then Grek would have been the next one to join because Hubris and Grek had, you know, been friends and known each other, and he knew Grek would have been interested, so Grek would have joined, and then Masani, Grimm, and Onyx would just kind of come later. I think we did explain Onyx's thing about how Onyx was he was actually kind of the runt almost. So he'd been out there looking for opportunities to prove himself and stuff. So we get Grek, and as for designs, we never knew what Grek was going to look like. I know some people found some skins in the assets folder for Jagathans. Those were really, really old Jagathan designs, and I mean so old that was before we even knew what the Ardoni, Magnarites, or Netharans were going to even look like. It was just an early idea for what Jags might look like. We thought we'd make them kind of glowing. Then we ended up making Magnarites glowing. We ended up making Netharans glowing. We ended up making Ardoni glowing. So we thought maybe Jags shouldn't be glowing. So we don't know what they were going to look like. We don't have any skins of them. All I knew is I was going to actually modify them a little bit. I was going to have like horns and spikes and a little bit of a tail and stuff. So it'd be a slightly modified rig. It wouldn't be just a perfect skin you can put on. But they wouldn't be glowing. That way we can have the little joking bit later where he's trying to get Hubris to turn his lights off. So Grek comes out and he just totally annihilates Onyx, which is also a good opportunity to show, you know, Magnarites are big. I was just, you know, previously establishing how big Onyx was standing behind Sen. And Ardoni are also big, and Onyx is even bigger. Because Onyx is like a normal Magnarite, whereas Igneous was actually kind of small Magnarite. So seeing Onyx next to Sen, who's big next to humans, and then seeing Grek come up, who's even bigger than Onyx, and Magnarites who are usually really tough and strong, and Grek is just like holding Onyx in a headlock, and while Onyx is in a headlock, Greg's just talking. He doesn't even really know. It's like, it's so easy to him, just keeping him in headlock. He's just talking like, oh, so, yeah, you're a new recruit? Don't mind him. And Onyx is like, trying to get out. So really, immediately shows Greg's character. We get to see a little bit about their species and stuff, which is really cool. I thought the Jag species idea was interesting. It was something I thought, when I was thinking about this game, this world in terms of, maybe one day we can make it into like an MMO server or something. The idea that the Jags have this kind of, their life is kind of short. It's not that long. It's maybe a little longer than Magnerite, or actually, honestly, about the length of Magnerite. But if they like kill a bunch, if they get in a lot of fights, if they improve themselves and they strengthen themselves, at the end of their life when they die, they're reborn, slightly stronger, slightly better, and then they get another life. And then the same thing happens. Now they gotta kill even more, be even stronger, train yourself more. Then at the end of that life, same thing, you get reborn again. And the idea was that there's a few of these levels, I think there's like 4 of them, and every time you level up, kind of, you get like slightly different looks, slightly different colors, slightly different patterns, and your horns get bigger, your tail gets spikes, your fins get spikier and stuff. Like, you kind of become stronger and better. And the idea is that like the kind of weak Jags would all just kind of die off early, and then only the really strong ones would continue living on and be even stronger, capable of taking down even the biggest, strongest of enemies and stuff, which I thought was really cool. So Greg's kind of in the middle, I think. I think he was level 2 at the beginning. I think he levels up to 3 near the end. But ever since like the zombies have all kind of disappeared, the Great War's over, there hasn't been many opportunities for him, and he's the only Jag we ever see. And that was part of the mystery and part of the reason we wanted to explore that in a spin-off later. Anyway, so enough about Greg. Oh, I do have, let me pull up some photos of some of the other characters we've met so far, because I do have some, I noticed I skipped over, let's see, once again, these are the old rigs, so they're gonna look a little weird. We got Denny, where's Denny? Denny is, where is it? Denny! There it is. Denny. The eyes look weird on this old rig, the mouth is so low, but little ginger hair, kind of roughly, scuffly, we kind of made his hair like very just random and looked like it was kind of messy and dirty versus all the other hair. We have nice kind of smooth shading. He got nice kind of farmer clothes, good soup. We got where's maybe Masani? Where's Masani? Masani, the archer, looking very like she doesn't want to be on camera right now, which just fit her mood. She doesn't want attention really. Got Onyx, which is just a typical Magnerite, nice dark black stone. I thought Onyx had a cool design. All the other ones had a little bit of color, but he's just this dark stone, the darkest of all the Magnerites I think we meet. Onyx, Masani, we don't have anything for Greg. Denny, where's Aaron? Aaron the Fletcher. I know I have a render of him. I swear I do. Yeah, here we go. There's Aaron. Cool guy, cool big, like, kind of a big walking stick blade thing that when they would be crossing that desert scene with Igneous, that would have been really cool seeing him walking along with this huge thing. So those are some characters. I think that was everyone I've shown. I don't know if I missed anyone. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, anyway. Oh, here we go. Wait, no, not here we go. Oh, then, yeah, so then Greg's trying to push Sen to see if he can use his song, but Sen hasn't fully trained with the song yet. But he does get a tiny little thing going, and Greg's kind of proud of him. He's like, yeah, keep it up. You know, keep working on that song. And yeah, Onyx was going to use some rewrites there. We're going to have Onyx not just be such a jerk throughout the whole thing. We're going to make Onyx a little more like, at the end, maybe come over and pat Sen on the shoulder or something and be like, you know, maybe you'll make it the other thing, something. A lot of these characters needed some rewrites. Kyoshi. This is the bit I was talking about, where Kyoshi's really like, he's going from kingdom to kingdom. He's trying to talk to all these different leaders. He's using the beacons, going to all the capital cities, and everyone's just so like, yeah, I don't know about that. There's other problems we got. No one really believes it. No one cares. No one wants to get involved. No one wants to get pulled into a fight. They're more worried about their own cities being under attack from the beacons. They're like considering turning off their own beacons rather than helping, because everyone's just kind of selfish. And that was kind of the idea between the whole, what Deathsing was saying, like, I'll return at a time when all the kingdoms are, when no one's all united, when everyone's all just fighting amongst each other, when the Amorites are gone, when you're only even using this stuff and whatever, all that stuff. So we're not yet at that bit where the kingdoms are united, and that was kind of Igneous's plotline, getting like Cydonia and Carthan united, and then the you know, the Knights of Ardonia getting the kingdoms united, and Abigail getting the End stuff united, and all that stuff. So he's going between the cities. No one's really joining, except he does go to Hyperia, and Yujuki, which was one of our skin designers, one of our old patrons, one of our earliest patrons, and skin designers. We decided to name a character after her, one of the Felinas. Her name was just like a kind of Felina name to begin with. There would have been a bit where, I don't know where it would have been. So they would have been out here somewhere, like, he would have been up at the tower talking to them, wasn't working out, comes out here, been really kind of pretty, would have seen like the boats moving around or something. Yujuki comes out. Yujuki's like kind of captain of the guard, and although she's not the one in charge, she gives him some of her like the kind of elite troops to kind of help out. So we'd have had a few Hyperia soldiers kind of in the Felden battle from then on, which is the most she can really do. And once again, we really see like the struggle Kiyoshi has here. There's a lot of good lines to Kiyoshi here, where I made these little like test trailer ideas and stuff just for fun after all the voicing was in, before we had any visuals, and I made this cool little audio trailer where a lot of these lines here, they're just so well like done. Kiyoshi voice actor just did such a cool job with all this stuff where he's like, necromancers are attacking now and killing our people stuff. And this is what I mean by it. Kiyoshi's like, you know, his people are dying right now, and everyone else is just like, we don't really want to help. He's going here trying to find anyone. And then at the end, Yujuki has that, you know, make sure Felden doesn't fall. Kiyoshi's sitting there kind of wondering like, oh man, you know, this is just getting worse. And he's just trying to do everything he can. He's just restless, trying to save Felden. Poor Kiyoshi. He's a tragic story. Because he does all this, he tries so hard, and then he gets to see everything fall. He doesn't win, he loses. He tried his hardest, but it just didn't work out. Spoiler alert for the end of the season. Oh well, you read it, obviously. Okay, here's another fun little bit. All the Knights of Ardonia around the campfire in the Knights of Ardonia area. I go back to KOA hideout. Stupid cave sounds. This was another scene like the sits down and listens one, where we were stuck in this for a while. For the longest time, the draft of the script said it had like Greg go character building dialogue, then Sen was like character building response, and then Grim was like character building grunt, and we just knew that there's gonna be some little conversation here with the characters. We get to learn more about the Knights of Ardonia. We had no idea what it was going to be. I talked to Badger a bunch about it. Badger tried all these ideas, but unfortunately I just wasn't feeling any of them. Badger was getting like a little impatient, like, hey, I made all these cool writing ideas. Surely one of them works. And I'm just like, man, I'm really not feeling any of them. I really want something that fits everything here. It ended up being one of the ideas I came up with at the end. I just really latched onto, thought worked perfectly, was having them share their weapons, talk about their weapons. In doing so, 1, we get to see their weapons. 2, we get to learn about their kind of fighting styles just by seeing what weapons they all have. 3, by talking about their weapons, we learn a bit about themselves and who they are, kind of based on like the weapons they use and stuff. So I thought that was nice, worked all around for developing the stuff. And we see Greg going first, talking about his weapon, this huge Soul Seeker. And he's going on about how this, you know, oh, there I was against 37 of them or whatever. And Onyx is like, what? Last time you said there was only 10. There was a lot, okay? You know, I couldn't count. There's a bunch. Which goes with the whole Grek's idea of just, you know, Greg likes to act tough, likes to seem like he's this really cool guy, but, you know, maybe there wasn't that many as he makes it out to be, exaggerates stuff for show effect and stuff. But the idea was Greg went and he found this huge weapon out in these kind of uncharted lands. If you look on the map, actually, let me pull up the world map real quick. Let's go into... excuse me, my throat's already getting sore. We're only 3 episodes in. If I go to the world map... Huge map. Take a drink of water while it's loading. There we go. There's this big stone island area. We never finished this. We were going to like turn it into something a little more interesting, but... The idea there's these big, like, stone islands that were just covered in mist all the time, just rather shrouded. And there were a lot of kind of hidden bandit groups and stuff that live out here, have little docks and stuff where they come back and forth, and that's where a lot of kind of crime and weird piracy stuff happens. So there was a bit where he was out there trying to hunt for just kind of dangerous game, try to get his level up his XP, getting leveled up. And while he was out there, he ran into these bandits, and they had this huge weapon that was clearly not theirs, something they must have stolen or something, which was Soul Seeker. I'm going to leave this open. Which was Soul Seeker. Let me open up Soul Seeker. Well, let me open the armory, which has Soul Seeker. Here's the full armory. It's nice now seeing the full armory. I don't have to hide it anymore. Oh, I'm in 2.8. Hopefully these all load in. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. It's not... Come on. 2.8 is so slow, I find. Takes so long to load all these materials. There we go. So here's Soul Seeker. This thing is massive. It's like this big double-bladed huge sword that you can like kind of spin around like Darth Maul. We were also going to modify it. We never got around to it because we never ended up getting this point in the series. We're going to have it actually detachable in the middle. Like you can slide the two pieces apart. Then you can actually have two huge swords. So Grek would sometimes have like two swords. Sometimes he would stick it together, do the spinning one. But Grek, being a Jagathan, a lot of times he would even like put the sword in his back and just go hand to hand. Grek being very like, I always imagine Grek a lot of times, I think in the script it even calls for it a few times, when he'd like charge the enemies, he'd almost start like running on all fours, because he was almost like kind of like in the brutes from Halo or something, where he's just very primal's the only word that comes to mind. Well, it's not, it kind of sounds weird saying it like that, but the Jags being these beasts, and he would just sometimes like charge on all fours with no weapons and just charge into them, punch them and stuff, which is funny because so would Onyx. Onyx didn't use weapons; he'd also punch. Good old Soul Seeker. Anyway, so he's talking about Soul Seeker and how he got Soul Seeker, and that was actually part of the Jag spinoff stuff. We'd learn where Soul Seeker came from in the spinoff, because Grek mentions here that like whatever thing used to wield this, it was even bigger than Grek, and you'd actually learn that was the, I think, so Grek's a tier 2 Jag. By the end of the series, becomes a tier 3 Jag. In the Jag spinoff story, he would have met these other Jags, and then their leader would have been tier 4 Jag, like the biggest of the Jags. And that would have been his sword that had been stolen or something and taken from him, but then ends up letting Grek, like through the story, Grek would have gotten to keep it and use it. That's why it was so big. It was meant for an even bigger, stronger Jag, but then Grek kind of gets to keep it for that story. Alas, that spinoff. Anyway, and then Sen presents his sword, and we get to see he's a little more timid about it. And Grim shows off his scythe, attention-demanding grunt. Onyx goes on like, who needs weapons with my bare hands? And then they look towards Masani, see if she'd show her a weapon, and then just Masani looking up, looking dull, not looking like she wants to be involved. That alone, like, it tells a lot more about her character. You don't even need to see her use her bow or talk about her bow. You just see her look over, look like she doesn't want to talk about it, and then like, alright, didn't think so. Anyway, moving right along. So by like even not showing us the weapon, we also learn more about the character, because we see that they don't participate, whereas the other ones do. So then Sen's kind of timid, gives his weapon in, but he's also very like confident. He's shy but confident, and this is why in the casting call we used this line as one of the test lines. I thought this line was a really good kind of. This one line summarizes kind of Sen's personality, where his sword doesn't have any history yet. It's not like Soul Seeker with this big story. It's not big, it's not rich. So he's kind of shy about it, but he made it myself. So it was kind of like, even though I might not have all these things, I'm still trying. I'm still going to make it myself. I'm still going to do it, whatever it takes. So that was a good little test line. And that was where, it was when we were hearing Tom Aglio's audition for that line, where we were just like, yep, that's our Sen. I might even have... No, it's going to be really hard to find. Someone else probably has it. People were going on the casting pages, finding stuff anyway, which honestly was a pretty big bummer for me that people were sharing all that stuff. That's pretty disappointing when I saw people were going back to this casting stuff. Part of the reason, honestly, I was kind of losing interest in more seasons. Anyway, I won't go there. I don't want to drag that topic out. Sen does his stuff, shows the things, and then, boom, Hebrews runs in, is like, yo, my dog, Shizzle Kraken, we got a Death Singer. He's been spotted by the Vault Man. And then they're all like, okay, well, I don't know what that was about. So they go outside. You get a more nice little dynamic with Grek and stuff, where Grek's like, not wanting to ride the horse. We had Greg, one of his little just quirks was he's really tough and stuff, and he's really cool, but he really just doesn't like animals. He doesn't like being around animals. He doesn't like working with animals. But they're trying to get him to ride a horse, but he's like way too big anyway. But he's not quite. Although he's big, he's actually supposed to be pretty lightweight, which was just a thing we thought. He's like strong, lightweight, and kind of just all lean muscle and stuff. So Onyx got away without riding one because he's Magnite. Also, Magnites don't tire because they're just kind of fueled on lava, whereas everything else, it's gotta take breaks, gotta sleep, gotta eat and stuff. But anyway, they get Greg on the thing, and then we get a nice bit here where I'm looking forward to people reacting to this as well. Just stuff like Hubris here having he's the leader of. You think he's the leader of Knights of Ardonia at this point? He's having his speech. We don't believe there's danger, but today we have a chance to sow. Then Onyx is just like, yeah, just tell me the rest when we get there. Onyx just starts running off. Then Greg's like, oh, his speech scared him off, man. Greg rides off. Masani and Grim kind of follow on their horses. And then Sen's just sitting, so he was just still sitting there. Everyone just left. Sen's kind of waiting. He was like, whatever. And the idea was it was kind of this this isn't the kind of, oh yeah, this is like Kiyoshi and his soldiers. He's going to give a speech and they're going to go out to army. This is like this ragtag team of kind of randoms. They're all just kind of friends and they're casual and they don't really care about these big speeches and stuff. They're all just like, yeah, okay, whatever, let's just go. They all start leaving, which is another thing I was really looking forward to. I think that was what I thought was really missing in Season 1 was we didn't really get that cool team of all the different species kind of working together, getting Magnites, Felinas, Ardoni, Grek, Grim, all these different species and stuff, just as a cool team, all their different personalities melding together. Season 1, when they were all kind of more separate, there was Luke and Nika kind of together on their own doing stuff, Sen, Thales together doing stuff. You got a little bit of Sen making us not much, and then Abigail just kind of alone hunting. That was about it. I think that was a big opportunity we missed. I think we really should have put this stuff sooner in the series, had it in Season 1, because all this stuff gets way more interesting once you start getting all the different characters. So they ride off into the cool sunset. This was also messed up. This was supposed to be at the end of that episode. This was where another cliffhanger got in the wrong spot. So if we go to the vault, good old vault. Had Guardian help me a lot in this set, and as in basically built most of this tower. I did all the landscaping. He did this cool bridge, the big tower and stuff. He was really good at doing these kind of stone stuff. And you can see that it's actually just like if in the lore, Crown Peak was once like an Ender city, which is, ruled by the Ender Knights and stuff. And you can see some traces of that. Same with the vault. The idea was the vault was also, back when the Ender Knights used to rule, the vault was this big Ender defended overworld stronghold where they would keep some of their treasures in the overworld. And it was just this big defended thing. There's only one way in, one way out. Very fortified and defended. But there hasn't been much to defend from, so the defenses have gradually probably been getting a little less and less. They're probably putting less budget into keeping it guarded, probably getting guards a little sleazier and lazier. So slowly it's been a little less and less defended. However, Thales still thought it was still a pretty good defended spot anyway, so he's going to put at least one of the prime songs here. Puts the green one there, because it was honestly the least useful, because the green's the Suxium song that sucks. Just kidding. We joke how much the green song sucks, but it doesn't really. You get telekinesis with it, which is pretty darn good. That's a pretty strong song, but still, it's the Toilet on Clogium song that has the random stuff that you'll use very specifically. Anyway, so they're here, they're at the vault. Sorry if I'm just jumping around sporadically when I'm talking. It's just kind of this weird force of habit. Let me actually change my speed to speed 1 so it's not as crazy. There we go. So here's the area where they'd be sitting over this hillside looking at the vault. Really good view of it, you can see everything. And they're over here, they're looking for the vault, seeing if anything's going on. Like, oh, we heard the death, we gotta report the Death Singers here. We don't really see anything. The guards are still here, and they're all, we let them know, but there's not too many guards and whatnot, and they're on alert. Then we get a nice little dynamic game with Hubris and Greg, where Greg's like, no, man, Hubris, turn your lights off. And Hubris like, I can't, these lights in my body, I can't just turn them off. And then Greg starts kind of almost really thinking, how are you supposed to sneak around? And they get in a little argument. Not like an argument, but just typical Greg Hubris back and forth, where Greg just doesn't understand and just kind of asking about it, and Hubris is like, whatever. Tries to see if Masani sees anything. Masani doesn't. And this is, once again, it's cool seeing all the different species. Like Masani, being a Felina, has the best eyesight, best seeing in the dark. So they're like, oh, Masani, what do you see? They have this nice dynamic that you get that you don't really have in Season 1, really. And Greg's like, yeah, typical, wanting to get in the fight. So they go back. And alright, well, nothing's here yet. And then that was when we get the reveal that Hubris wasn't actually the leader. The one who was out here scouting and the one who reported that Deathsinger was here was the leader. And they're like, oh, who's the leader? And it's Rhea! Eee! And then, yeah, that's where the episode was going to end. We're going to have this episode 3 ending. So episode 1 ending, oh snap, Nika turned dark, oh what a cliffhanger. Episode 2 ending, not quite as cliffhanger, but oh no, Sen left training, he's going to go out there and join Knights of Ardonia. What's going to happen next? Episode 3 ending, oh, Rhea's alive, she's the leader of the Knights of Ardonia, what does that mean? Episode, and you can see why. And then the next episode ends, oh, the Deathsinger and them all fight, and Rhea and Sen jump off in the water, falling off the edge. What's going to happen? Oh, that's a huge thing. You can see why, like, the cliffhangers here, every episode is just cliffhanger, surprise, what's going to happen next? Every episode leaves you wanting more. And that was what was really missing in season 1. All the episode endings were just kind of like, oh, okay, something kind of happened, and oh, the egg, okay, kind of egg's glowing a little bit, okay. Oh, Abigail, she kind of ran off. But then season 2, it's like all these episodes are just full of cliffhangers and full of excitement. Anyway, so Rhea would have been alive. That would have been episode 3 ending. That way, while people were waiting for episode 4, they could all discuss it and react to it and be wondering about it. If Rhea was introduced and then had a whole episode, that would have been way less interesting, I think. Meanwhile, back in Carthen, Igneous goes to a dude's house called Maxwell. Did I spell it wrong? Oh, it's Tartarus stuff. Back in Tartarus. The idea between Maxwell was I wanted to show that not everyone here is a Magnerite. There are different... there are normal humans living here. Excuse me. Wow. I didn't even have anything. Let me take another swig of water real quick. Swig. Excuse me. Sorry. You guys are probably like, wow, this is so unprofessional. But whatever. It's too long to edit. I said it before, I'm saying it again. Not sure where Maxwell's house would have been. We would have probably decided that for season 2 and then updated the area a little bit more. One thing you'll notice, I don't know if I talked about this in any of the world tours. Probably not, because I probably didn't show off Tartarus too much because we hadn't got there. But a cool thing about Tartarus is the main level is where all the different, like, kind of your shops and your taverns and stuff are. Somewhere around here is that tavern. He sits down and listens. I think it's on the other side. I think it's on this side. Wherever it was, we probably would have needed to workshop it up a little more. A lot of times we had these... We had places that we knew when we got there we would have updated a little more at the time. But anyway, what I was saying about the districts in Tartarus that's kind of cool is every district is named after the mineral that was left behind there. Some places there's kind of all minerals, just kind of in the middle. There's the big diamond spire in the middle. If I go over here, you can see that there's only coal. There's coal in the wall, so it's the coal district. And as we start moving over here, see some diamond. Now there's diamond. Look, it's this diamond district. The actual quality of the houses, the quality of the area gets a lot nicer. There's like fountains, and there's a little more plants. In like the coal district, it's probably a little poorer. Probably not as much plants. We also had the idea that everything here is dry. They talk about that in the whole, like, when Carthen was kind of drying up and having to force to trade with Cydonia, get all their food from Cydonia, and then that was when Cydonia started raising the prices and stuff, and what the whole Civil War kind of began with. So they're trying to keep plant life here, keep it kind of pretty. We wanted to make sure to show, even in the nice area like the Diamond District, there's still just dead shrubs. It's still, Carthen's pretty dry and arid and dead. But yeah, it's a coal district. If I go downstairs, there's probably like the gold district and the other ones. Oh, no, all the housing is on the second floor, that's right. All the housing's up here. Now it looks like we're in the iron one. I swear there's a gold one somewhere. Emerald district. This one's pretty nice as well. It's pretty nice houses. Anyway, Maxwell would have been somewhere here. I don't know where. Oh, they actually get a window. That's rare. Somewhere around here, Maxwell would have been. The idea is showing that there's humans here in Tartarus too. It's not all just Magnerites. But Maxwell's really like... Everyone here is just on edge. All this stuff going on. He doesn't want Igneous to come in. He like this shuts the door in his head, I think. It's a bit where... yeah, starts to close the door. Igneous just kind of sticks his head in the door, which then... Maxwell just slams the door on his head and trying to close the door. And Igneous' head just sitting there. He doesn't mind. He doesn't hurt him at all. He's like, oh, not sure. I agree with you. He's just talking all normally, like Igneous does, all bubbly. Maxwell's like, fine, come on in. Then they talk. Maxwell talks about the story. Maxwell finally reveals the kind of story about the ores and the food trade and how all that stuff happened, and then realizes that Igneous is kind of taking this in for the first time. Realizes Igneous obviously isn't from around here, so then finally asks, where are you from? And then we finally get a good kind of story on Igneous about how he wasn't born in Carthan. He was born elsewhere, and because he never grew up around Magnorites, so that's why he's not like these other Magnorites. Because the idea is the Magnorites, they always kind of do what all the other Magnorites do. That's how Magnorites work. They if other Magnorites are wanting this thing, he'll want that. If they're fighting this, they'll fight that. But because he never grew up around Magnorites, he never really got any of that. He just kind of grew up a lot more neutral. Which is why he's the only kind of person who can stop this war. He's the only one who's, all the Magnorites are just all in on it because Malachi's in on it and he's the top Magnorite. It's kind of like the alpha Magnorite or whatever. So Igneous is the one who can stop that. And that was kind of Igneous' story. Some people were like, oh, you shouldn't have killed Igneous, he shouldn't have died, he didn't do anything. Whereas I disagree. I thought Igneous did a lot. This was this huge conflict between the two strongest kingdoms with the biggest military in a war that was just kind of constantly going, and Igneous was the only one who really had this kind of outside input and could go look into it and solve the problem and kind of fix it. Ends up kind of saving the day and stuff. He does die, but then he solves their conflict, gets the kingdoms united again. Anyway, beepity boppity boopity, zippity zoppity zoopity. Montage scene, which was something we wanted to expand a bit more. Get a little moments with the characters rather than it being completely dialogueless and just music focused. But again, we were having a hard enough time with the series as it was. We didn't know if we'd be able to add stuff. We were trying to cut stuff away. I will show off, Theria y'all know. We thought it'd be good to revisit Theria. I thought Theria was really... No, wait. Was it Theria or was it Twin Pass? I think it was Twin Pass. I think we would have gotten Saxon at Twin Pass. Wait, now I'm confused. Hold on, let's see what the script says. Yeah. Right. So Trevor was learning enchanting. He wasn't yet at Etheria, I think was his story. He was going to move to Etheria once his enchanting became good enough. He was not going to be at Twin Pass. Twin Pass is pretty close to Etheria. If I pull the map back up. Twin Pass is right there. Etheria is just kind of down the road. So he was here kind of practicing a little bit. I imagine there's a little bit because they're so close. Probably some of the people here probably then move there and stuff, or vice versa. So he was practicing enchanting, becoming a little bit apprentice, and once he would have became good enough, he would have moved there, studied enchanting more fully, practiced it fully there in Etheria. So that was his story. That was his kind of quirk. That was, as an Nether Knight, he was the one who could enchant. They would have picked him up here at Twin Pass because it was such a cool place. I wanted to show this place off. I did show it briefly in the montage in episode 1 of the series, but I wanted to actually get some time to kind of... It would have been another montage, but at least we could have seen it again. They would have been up here recruiting him. And they would have been Ghost and Dragon like flying around. The server crashed. Wow. I'm the only one on. Nothing's happening. Excuse me. Drinking again. But it's also cool to note that he was so in training at this point that he had never actually successfully enchanted anything. The idea I always had was that enchanting in this universe was extremely difficult. You train like a lifetime. Okay, not a lifetime. You train for years and years and years and years before you can even finally start enchanting anything. And even then, you're enchanting like basic stone stuff, some kind of cheap iron, and enchantments are kind of weak. The idea is that in this series, enchantments are a huge deal. Like if you got a flaming sword or one that leaves trails and streaks, it's like, man, that really got a high level enchanter to figure that out and to get it working. So he's been training, and throughout all of the series, he never actually successfully enchants, which is fine because he didn't need to. Like he was being chosen as an Ender Knight for the long term, for someone who could start enchanting to train and practice and stuff. While there are some people in the world who already are enchanting, they wanted someone kind of new and younger who could kind of grow up with the Ender Knights and become an Ender Knight, versus like someone already established who might be kind of late in their life to suddenly switch to becoming an Ender Knight. But that also leaves opportunities for future story stuff for him to finally start enchanting later down the line. But so they would have picked up Saxon here. Yeah, that was his story, and then Trevor would have been in Amaria. Another awesome city. So, Twin Pass. I'm trying to give out some of the people who worked on these builds, but it's been so long, and I also don't want to miss people's names, and I'm kind of hesitant. I do know Zor and Bentley worked a lot on that last place. I swear there's another person as well. This is why I don't want to say names, because I know I'm missing there's a third person who worked on Twin Pass, and I don't remember the name. Plus other people help. There's a lot of people who help on everything, honestly. Like a bit of people do everything. I kind of work on all the builds a little bit. So this was Amaria. Really cool city. This one was StarCraft. I think this was like all StarCraft. Really cool looking place when the sun's coming down. They're just like the whole city's on a cliff. And Saxon's place was way on the end. If you come over here, it's like, oh no, the bridge is out. Better turn back. Nothing to see here. But if you kind of parkour along here, this is what Saxon does every morning to get his groceries. Oh, it's Saxon's house. Don't mind me, just a regular old house. Oh, what's this? Oh, it's potions. So Saxon was just like Solomon, another potion brewer, doing illegal potion stuff that you're not supposed to be doing, which is why he had this kind of like hidden secret place on a hidden area that you can barely get to. But he chose Amaria because Amaria is a really big trading route. You know, having all the ships come right through, he can kind of trade the potions and smuggle them on ships and black market them, make a lot of money off them and stuff. But although the potions were banned in the kingdoms, as he mentions a little bit later, because of how they're kind of dangerous and you can use them almost as it's like a weapon. Basically, you can drink some potions and then jump over fences, break into areas, and run away from cops or whatever. They've been banned in the kingdoms, but they're still effective in things like during the Great War against the enemies and stuff. So they recruited a potion dude. And then, so that's good old music. Good old music. There would have been cool music there, but again, it's like a scene that we would have probably wanted to expand a bit. And then, back to Flora. The Hyderfeld troops are with him. We get to see Kyoshi coming back through the beacons and stuff. He rides back to Ferndale. Let's go to Ferndale. And he's like coming into town, coming back from all the stuff, and right then we see Natsuki. And Natsuki is the chronicler. Let me pull up her character. I love Natsuki's design. Character renders. I'm Natsuki. I'm spooky. There we go. Natsuki. Oh, glasses. Felina. Reading books and stuff. Which was interesting because when they say like, oh yeah, chroniclers coming down, these chroniclers that they wrote the walls of time and stuff, and they're the ancient keepers of the history, and you're kind of expecting, kind of like Val, you're expecting like, oh okay, some old chroniclers gonna come down, and then we see Natsuki's like really young, just kind of silly. She's very, very amateur. She's basically like it's like an intern, almost just like a chronicler intern. And the idea between that was, one, like Val, we end up with the characters a little more interesting. Someone who's a little more room to grow, more room to kind of express themselves rather than like a old grizzled chronicler. But two, it also was supposed to show not only were the other kingdoms, not supporting Kyoshi and stuff, but even like, Northwind and the Walls of Time or whatever, when they send their chronicler, they send like their most apprentice, untrained chronicler, because they don't really think that the deal is really that bad. Like, oh, okay, why don't we just send Natsuki, she's new, and let her figure it out. No one else really wants to go. They don't want to travel all the way down there because they don't think it's a big deal. And that was kind of part of the idea that, like, that's it. They just sent Natsuki, someone who... And I think Natsuki... It's been a while since I've actually read the script, so I'm trying to remember it as I'm reading it. But I think there's a bit where Natsuki mentions that she wasn't even a full chronicler yet. She was still, like, kind of in train, like Trevor. Like Trevor. She was also in training. Hadn't actually done any chronicling yet. This was kind of one of her first assignments. But it's good showing Natsuki come up. This scene was all added kind of near the end to kind of introduce her a little more interestingly. Initially she was just there and said hello, where's Luke and whatever. But now we get to see her kind of like, the idea was she just totally overpacked. She has like way too many books. She brought like all the books with her and stuff. A lot of stuff so she can write in, things she can read. And she's just like way over prepared because she's never been on these missions before. She doesn't know what to expect. She has way too much stuff bumbling around. But she's very book smart, but not very like what's the opposite of book smart? Not very people smart, not very like society smart, I guess. Because she walks into like the weird, she'll walk into like the cafeteria or whatever and be like, hey, he's like, you Koshi? And then it's like, no, this is the kitchen. I'm the chef. Try the barracks. And I just didn't know where the barracks are. Because she's like read everything in books throughout her whole life, but never really experienced things. I think Natsuki says that a little bit in the next episode or something. She talks about how she had a pretty sheltered upbringing, so she used books as like her outlet to read about all these things. So she knows about them, but she doesn't really like understand them. And when she comes time to go there, she's not very like common sense about these things, just because she's never had these experiences. And then that was when because she's like, oh, I hope you and Lucan are getting along. And then she's like, yeah, who? And then Kyoshi realizes, crap, Lucan never met up with her. And that's where we would have seen Lucan dropping down in the tunnels. He's back in his kind of necromancer. He goes back to that necromancer gear that he had in season 1. We figured he would have kept that, because he had that at the end of that one episode. Then the next episode he didn't have it. We imagine they would have kept it somewhere. I don't know where, but probably kept it that way in case they ever need it again, which, good thing he did. He puts his necromancer gear back on so he can go back undercover. He still has that skull. He still has his little wither skull. So he goes back down and now a little more experienced with the undead, having tried to practice some of his own necromancer stuff his own, able to go back in the tunnels and go back undercover looking, because if they won't go after Nika, he'll do it himself. So that was kind of cool to see him going on his own after Nika. And then back to the vault. I'm in episode 4. After episode 5, we're gonna have to take a break, go have some food, and like come back or something. Warp vault. There we go. La 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 la. So back at the vault, Ria's there, and she's all like, "Yabba dabba dooba, I'm alive," and Sen's all like, "Yabba dooba, we don't really have time for this. It's a dude right here about to kill the king." And that's where, so they're excited to see each other, but it came at this moment that's like, oh, Sen and Ria, they're gonna come back together and reunite, but it's at such a like moment that they don't have time for anything. Like we got to do this later and stuff, and then Sen's kind of a little sad that like all this time and stuff apart and all this different stuff they've been doing, and the circumstances now can prevent them from kind of going back to how things used to be. They get to talk whatever, and then they realize Deathsinger's already there. Masani sees him, so they start getting ready, they start moving out, and then Ria's like telling everyone to do all this business, get here, you cover something. So she's definitely become like the leader of them, knows all their workings and stuff, knows what they're all good at, and Sen, wait here, don't move, keep quiet, let's go. Doesn't want to leave, and Sen's like, what? Sen just stays. They start going off, they start fighting some kind of Voltaris around the side. I had all these areas where you could have like had fighting in these little side areas. I think I was gonna put, that never made it into the build. When we got time to do season 2, there's gonna be little, very small, like mini outposts around the side. Like there's little towers with some guards defending even the perimeter to keep it even more defended. And the Knights of Ardonia would have been there, kind of fighting Voltaris off to there. That was all the distraction, though. Tigran and Deathsinger end up going straight down the main bridge while they're kind of distracted. So they end up fighting, and then Sen's back there, all like, why don't I get involved and stuff? But then Masani makes a good point that maybe Rio just, after all that time without Sen, didn't want to lose Sen stuff, so didn't want Sen to kind of get involved and maybe get hurt and stuff. But then that all gets explained later. So then Deathsinger's there. Yeah, in the script it says holding the first of the 4 ones. In the script I didn't know exactly the order at the early time when writing that, although later I decided the order. Never went back and rewrote it. That was the green song, the Saporium Prime. Cool moment of him. The first time he gets his first Prime song back. Pretty big moment in the series. Only 4 episodes in, Deathsinger and Tigran are back. They're taking their Prime songs back. What a cool season. What a shame. And then Masani is like, oh crap, they're at the thing. And Sen's already gone. Like, wait, what the? Sen, despite being told to stay, is gone. Get a really epic moment with them. So they had gone in here. Tigran and Deathsinger alone just took out everyone in this place. They were just going ham in here. they cave sounds again. They went in here. They found the Prime song somehow, and I don't know how. His song senses were tingling. And then Death Singer and Tigern start coming back out, and then they're like, all right, it's time to walk. And then they see Rhea does her little hover skate thing, flies down, blocks the entrance, and stops. Nice confrontation, perfect bridge. Rhea facing off against Death Singer and Tigern. Nice confrontation. Then they would have some dialogue here where we really see kind of what kind of character Rhea's become in this time, and Rhea still has the cool spear thing that Sen gave her. It's even enchanted now, I think. She got enchanted. She's holding off. She's all like, I've been hunting you for a long time. Like, yeah, Rhea's been hunting them ever since, Tigern destroyed her home and her family, and basically everything. Thought also destroyed, assumed Sen also might have been killed and stuff. She lost everything when Tigern and them came and destroyed the village, which is why we decided later on to have Rhea help out in killing Tigern. At the end we realized she was actually, yes, Tigern killed Thalius and his kind of family and stuff, but Tigern also killed like everyone Rhea ever knew, really, and well, the Voltaris group in general did. So Rhea's a cool confrontation, and this is where you get the "Do you know who I am?" comes from. And then they talk, they confront. We get to see a little bit about the Death Singer here. Very early foreshadowing that the Death Singer is not quite this evil, ruthless, kill everyone villain that you think he is, because he's even saying here that it's kind of like, I'll let you go and let us go in peace, and we'll let you do the same. I just want this Prime song. Don't interfere with my plans. And he's even respecting her. Like, I commend your bravery. He's even like, you're going up against us all alone. I'm impressed, genuinely, not like mockingly, which is why I like Death Singer a lot. He's like, he does respect and know stuff. Anyway, so Rhea doesn't want to back down. She's like, nope, I'm not letting you get by. We were going to work on this bridge a little bit. We realized it was a little crammed and a little hard to see. We were going to probably like make it a little, now that things like lanterns are out, we probably would have redesigned it a little. That way we could see things a little better. But then Rhea goes up against, she confronts both of them. She's about to fight both of them, and then, I'm sorry, that's just the way you see things. And then Tigern steps around, does the big energy ball thing he always does, and this is the perfect place for that, because there's not really nowhere to jump. She doesn't really have anything, she doesn't have a shield. The energy ball soaring down after Rhea, and then Sen gets in the way. First time he fully activates his shield, boom, blocks the song, which would have been cool because we hadn't seen Sen be able to fully do the shield yet, but here, out of desperation, after finally seeing Rhea's alive, in the desire to protect Rhea, runs in front just in time, puts his shield up, saves Rhea from being hit by the blast, which is cool. Now they're back together. They're both using their songs now. It's cool to see. Not only are they using their songs, but Sen's able to use his song to defend against Tigern, that character who, killed like half the cast in season 1, killed Thalius, and now Sen and Rhea are standing up against him and the Death Singer. We're only 4 episodes in the season. And then they have a nice little confrontation. Tigern kind of mocks Sen. Sen was like, yo, that sword doesn't belong to you. Because Tigern still got Thalius' sword, which was a nice kind of ongoing thing. Keeps Tigern as this character to always, he's always got that sword of Thalius's throughout most of the series. So you're always kind of like, I can't wait till they eventually get revenge on that. And then Tigern taunting him, like Tigern often does. That's how Tigern works. He likes to get in under people's skin and really like annoy them, and annoy them is an understatement, but really, mess with them and get them kind of in a weird state of mind where they just start attacking without thinking. That's how Tigern works. And I'll actually come back to that. There's a bit where in season 3, there's a bit where Tigern, he does that to Onyx. He talks to Onyx, and then he's like, skipping ahead for a second. He's talking to Onyx, and he's like, they must be desperate for calling Magnorites and something. And then he's like insulting Onyx about, Onyx, you don't look very strong and stuff. And we would have learned in the previous episode how Onyx was kind of unconfident, inadequate and stuff. And he Is that those words? Self. He had no self-esteem or whatever. He thought he was weak and stuff. So Tigran uses that to get under his skin and be like, "Oh yeah, you don't look very strong and stuff, like Magnets are supposed to be." And by doing that, it makes Onyx just kind of go in full rage and then able to kill Onyx. And then he also tries it on Sen here, where he's like, "Oh yeah, you're clanless." No, he always has this kind of, he puts people down, tries to get them in a bad state of mind. That way he can get the advantage. But here we see that Sen has finally overcome all that. After Tigran always like getting the upper hand against people, he just got it against Onyx. He got it against Sen in season 2, but in season 3, Sen's grown. Sen knows that Tigran's just this horrible person and has no, feeling. So then Sen actually flips it because Tigran's like, "Oh, I'm rewarded. Got Daius' sword. It's great." And then Sen instead flips it back rather than being like, "No, you took Daius' sword." It's like, you know what? You're all just pawns of the Nether. You Voltaris, you're not even like your own clan anymore. You're just working for the Nether. And then that actually, for once, gets Tigran angry, and then Tigran actually goes out on the rage for once. And that was kind of the interesting flip that finally happened that allowed Tigran to kind of be defeated. It was this, well, not allowed him to be defeated, but the thing that kind of jumped the flip. Jump the flip? Is that even a term? It flipped the norm for Tigran. Tigran's always been used to getting the upper hand right away, but then Sen by the end was able to kind of overcome that and then get Tigran to kind of, Tigran still gave Sen a beating. Sen almost lost. It wasn't until Rhea, I think, showed up as well, and then Rhea helped. Then Rhea and Sen had to take them out together, but even having that just kind of got it started. So Sen just didn't get initially beaten. Also shows how much Sen and stuff had been training between the seasons and whatnot. Anyway, back to season 2, episode 4, where we were. So Sen charges in, but then obviously doesn't do anything. He tries, but Tigran starts kind of beating Sen easily. But then as Sen starts getting beaten back by Tigran, Rhea jumps in, starts fighting Tigran. We see that Rhea actually is quite, just like in season 1, we saw how Rhea was kind of the better fighter than Sen. Rhea's still kind of the better fighter, and after Sen gets back down, Rhea actually starts taking some advantage, starts pushing Tigran back. But then as Tigran starts getting pushed back, Deathsinger steps in and then, easily just takes her down. Deathsinger's easily the best fighter of all of them. But it was cool seeing for a moment Rhea had the upper hand on Tigran. That would have been cool. Just see a character who had been so strong in season 1 getting pushed back a little bit. Not like beaten, but just he's kind of on the defense. Rhea has a nice big long spear, so she's got the advantage of having the kind of distance. And then Deathsinger once again commends them, and he even says, kind of interesting, this was actually written before whatever that Infinity War was that came out, which was kind of like, but it was a similar thing where he was a character like Thanos before Thanos was written, where it was Thanos had that line that reminded me a lot of Deathsinger, where Thanos was like, when he's about to kill Tony Stark in the first Infinity War, where he's like, you were really strong or something. I hope people remember you for what you did and stuff. And he was being genuine, and I really liked the Thanos of Infinity War because he reminded me a bit of how I wrote Deathsinger, where he was even like when defeating his enemies, he doesn't do it out of like pleasure. It's like, it's that respect. I respect you, and I hope that you'll be remembered for what you did because you're someone who should be respected and stuff. But then at the last moment, right before he kills them, Rhea grabs Sen, jumps off the edge. They fall. Cuts to black. Oh no! Cliffhanger again! 4 cliffhangers in a row? This season's too good. This is the best thing I've ever seen. I can't believe it's on YouTube, where it doesn't make any money because ad rates are so bad. And you get like 50 cents per 1,000 views, even though you worked so hard. Anyway, sorry. I got a lot of tangents now because of YouTube. But I've moved on. I'm a new man now. New thirsty man. Okay. Where are we now? Igneous in the tunnel. I hope I have a warp straight here. I don't. Oh wait, there's Tartarus Tunnel? Yes, okay. That saved me a whole bunch of... That was a creepy sound. So at this point, they would have been right around here in the mines. I probably would have blocked the thing up. I never actually made this set, but they would have been in the mines. Igneous finds Borgin, Slaveman again, talks to Borgin, and he's trying to be like, hey, yeah, it's Borgin, yeah, it's you. And Borgin's like, yeah, I've never met you, trying to, like, not make it look like he's been working with this weirdo, because he doesn't want, everyone's so uneasy and tense in Carthan. But Igneous is still pressing on, not realizing he's going to kind of rat him out, and then Borgin's like, come on, what are you doing, man? You can't talk like that around here and stuff. You can't say you want to help, like, reunite and stuff. Then Igneous kind of reveals to Borgin. Now, this is the first time he tells Borgin that he's not around here, he's trying to help. And then Borgin's actually kind of surprised, like, why would anyone want to help us? No one's been wanting to help us. All the kingdoms abandoned us and stuff. Because Carthan thinks they're in the right. Carthan thinks that, as a Magnerite, they were like, we were just doing kind of what we always do, and they were, whatever the food thing happened with the Civil War that caused them, they were starving, people were starving, and everyone kind of abandoned them, and now they've been kind of living this, kind of sucky life ever since then. So he's surprised that people want to help. Then he's like, okay, I'll show you something after the shift's over. So then after the shift is over, if I fly, this is going to take some time. Speed 6. If we go back to the start of the tunnel, which was way back, this was a long tunnel. Really long tunnel. There we go. Now we're back under Tartarus. He takes you back to the start and shows the mine carts that they've been using. They aren't just transporting ores, but there's a bunch of TNT. Oh, ooh. So they would have snuck in here, and they'd have been like on top of the ores, and they would have seen all the TNT and seen them kind of loading up. And they're starting, now there's tension building in this arc. Like, what is all this TNT for? What are they going to blow up? And if you look on the map, it's actually, there's a, if they're in Tartarus, there's the mine went like straight south, and it's going to go blow up that town there, or destroy the nearest city they could get to. And with that, because they couldn't really go over land without it being like a full-on war, but they could mine underneath and blow it up without even losing anyone. That was Carthan's plan. So tensions are rising here. The Magnerite story is getting more interesting. Already like a season's getting more, and we've already had a lot of excitement, and there's still like rising tension in the series. I remember a lot of these lines were great. I lament the loss of all the voiced lines, all the Igneous stuff, like, oh my, that's a lot of TNT. This is all just the funny ways all these things were said. Yeah, because at first he didn't realize what the TNT was. He was just like, oh my, that's a lot of TNT. Is this not the mining tunnel? And then that's when he realizes that, like, no, they're going into Cydonia, and that's when Igneous finally realizes, like, what's going to happen in the real stuff. They're going to try to keep the war going, because Malachi is the only one who is kind of benefiting from all this, and the Magnerites aren't suffering as much as the humans, because they still have love and stuff. They don't need the food as much as the humans. So they're still benefiting. Like, people like Malachi are benefiting from keeping the war going. And that's why this war has been ongoing. It's just all these Magnerites doing what they always do, doing their kind of do what other Magnerites do kind of mentality, and they're not really suffering from this civil war like the other people are. So then we get Rhea reunite a little bit. We get back to the vault next to this episode 5. Episode 5 is the first episode that I think this was the one I called the a little bit of like the, I guess it's like the little mid-season breakish kind of. That's not the right word. It's more of like it was an opportunity to finally like catch up a bunch on all the characters. It was basically the character exposition episode, because we had so much excitement for so long, and we're about to move into the second half of the season. This episode was like spending a lot of time with characters, really getting to learn about them all, learn about kind of who they are, what they want, their personalities and stuff. There's a really cool bit here. So they land in the water, they kind of swim over here. We gotta get back up there, see what happened. And, oh man, I can't see anything in these shaders. I'm gonna turn shaders off for a moment, because this place looks really cool. Which one was I using? Depth 7. If we go up this cool tunnel, that's not much better. Anyway, there's this whole cool tunnel that takes you through, and there's like natural glowstone hanging and stuff. And they would have started working their way up the tunnel, and they go way, way up. We've obviously cut this speed out. Nice little like water always flowing down there. They get almost all the way up, and there's a nice little bit where they've been crossing over here, and that was where they finally would have had their little moment where they had been a little cold, or Rhea been a little cold shoulder with Sen for a bit, not quite knowing how she feels after all the time and stuff. But finally they would have gone back to kind of how they were before, where they were close friends. I looked at their relationship as the more like matured, just kind of really good friend spawned one. Who it still is kind of a relationship. They are still kind of romantic, but it's not like the flirty Nika Lukin one, and it's not the kind of weird, mysterious, shippy other stuff. It's more just they're really good friends. They grew up kind of together, and they had the childhood kind of thing. And right here is when, yeah, they finally have a little moment together. They finally get a little hug, and then Rhea also is where she explains the how she escaped and stuff, and how she used the song to escape, and a civilian died defending. And I would have actually, this is another bit I would have rewritten a bit, where we would have actually seen a little bit of the flashback, seeing a civilian like defending as Rhea escapes, which would have been cool. Seeing a civilian like character who we kind of disliked in season 1 actually like giving his life so Rhea could survive and escape. So that was why Rhea survived. 1, she had her song. 2, the civilian basically sacrificed himself so Rhea could live. That was why he was always so cautious about like, oh, Rhea, don't go seeking danger, you're important. And in the end, he gives his life so she could live because of how important it is for the females to survive because of how rare they are now. So they get out, and they're all like, yabba dabba doo. What are we gonna do? And the badooga baga dooga. Then we get to, and then that's where Rhea finally learns Tiger's name, because she needs to be able to kind of go after him personally as well, because she's the one who lost everything from that. And then this is where we kind of see about how much Rhea's kind of changed now. She's a lot more, a little colder, a little more just calculated, a little more. She's got all this stuff to deal with now. She's got all these struggles and stuff. Then we get a scene with Saxon and Trevor and Abigail and Stenny on the road. So they would have just finished going from Amaria, and they were leaving Amaria, walking down the road. And then this is where Alistair would have shown up, the second dragon. And Alistair was the main one that was going to have the rewrite. When I was talking about the characters that were going to have rewrites, the script that we were going to change, how the writing wasn't finalized, Alistair was the one that was completely different than how we were going to write him. Luckily, a lot of these characters, like Alistair, Saxon, Denny, Vulcanus, Pythus, and all these characters who weren't in Season 1, we were going to rewrite a lot of their stuff, just because we never finalized it in Season 1. We had the general vibe down of kind of what people would say around them, where the conversations would lead, where the story would take them. But we knew we wanted to write them a little better, improve their dialogue, polish it up more, and we just didn't have time or stuff in Season 1. We were focusing on Season 1, so we were like, oh, whatever, we'll do that when we need to do it. So, yeah, so Alistair was the big one. Alistair was the one that, in the script you read, he was very much like, oh, this obviously kind of creepy weirdo who is obviously going to betray him, but the characters don't realize it. Oh, no, he's going to get him. Oh, no, tension. But what we realized was it kind of sucked having the audience know and the characters not, because then it made it just this whole, like, oh, come on, characters, you guys are idiots. This guy's obviously a creepy weirdo who's going to betray you. So then we decided, like other characters in the series, like Ingressus, we're going to just write him like a normal person, write him a normal character. We were going to actually make Alistair quite the opposite, rather than being this very creepy kind of weirdo guy who was, have these very different ideals and very rude to everyone, literally. We were going to make Alistair just a normal, cool guy. Just a normal character. Very friendly, very, he would have actually, when he would have flown down here, rather than the stuff he has here where he gets kind of like, it's like hitting on Abigail right away, it would have been more of like a nice meeting with them. He would have introduced himself. Then, Abigail would have been surprised that he was flying Thunderdome. And then at this point, Luna would have been just kind of big enough where she would have been kind of flyable. People were asking kind of like how big Luna was supposed to be in the series. I imagined in the opening bit at Havenshire, she was already quite large, like pretty much like a horse size. She was big enough where Abigail could have ridden on Luna, but she probably wouldn't have been able to fly. But then now we're later into the series. A lot of time is supposed to have passed as the series going on. That's what people don't realize all the time. Like, Sen had been training for 6 months at Ataraxia in this mid-season, or in the break between season 1 and 2. But then once Val shows up, he was supposed to have trained with Val for, a few months longer even. Like, time had passed. They had been training. The war had been going on with the stuff. Igneous had been traveling throughout all of Cydonia and Carthan and stuff and trying to get to there. Like, time has passed. So Luna would have been older by now. So she was just getting kind of old enough now where she could have been ridden. So we were going to change it to Alistair here rather than being all weird. It would have been like Alistair would have had a nice moment with Abigail, would have started training her to ride Luna, and then they would have both started flying off, and we would have used this area because it was a really nice. Let me turn the shaders back on. Good old Timmy. Too many cooks. Put the shaders back on. Let me do a nice done. Time set 0. And that's a nice one. They would have been in this nice morning. They would have flown up. And that also would have been kind of nice for the people who were on the kind of Denny Abigail ship. The Denigale is what we were calling it. People would have kind of started shipping Denny and Abigail previously because Denny was this kind of nerdy, dorky farmer guy who was kind of clumsy. And he was the first Ender Knight to join. So people would have kind of shipped him a little bit. Then Alistair would have come along. And he would have been the one with the dragon and flying off. So people would have been like, oh, poor Denny. They would have been flying along here, really pretty lighting. They would have been flying like under the bridges, over the bridges on their first flight. It would have been basically like the How to Train Your Dragon kind of sequence where it's a little rough at first, but then they kind of start picking up and they start flying together. Alistair flying Thunderdome, Luna flying Abigail. That was backwards. That would have been... Someone fan art that, please. Luna riding on the back of Abigail, flying along the Maria. But, so they would have been flying along, and yeah, the whole stuff with Alistair being a kind of villainous character would have been completely swapped. He would have been quite likable, quite just a normal, nice character. Just with good dynamics with the team, good dynamics with Abigail, helps them train and learn and stuff. Also, the other thing is back to what I was saying at the beginning with the whole stuff about the Nether. This was another opportunity where we were thinking about maybe working in some Nether stuff again. It's kind of the mid-season. We wanted to tease some Nether stuff really early on, so you know the Nether's coming this season, and then you're kind of hyped for it, and it raises the stakes. We would have seen the real enemy was the Nether. That's what Abigail's up against. It would have also been a good opportunity to show, like, Abigail's very just go and take things out on her own, but doesn't quite think about the consequences, and so far she's been lucky, She beat Jalkar the first time. Jalkar was nice enough not to murder her and kill her. Then she got lucky with Grim. Grim was really wounded. She had Sam's help. Grim ends up kind of zapping himself, and she got really lucky with Grim the second time, or with Jalkar the second time, in that basically Sam the wolf saved her life, took Jalkar out, and then she was able to take Jalkar out while he's kind of wounded. She always got kind of lucky, but I wanted to show a scene earlier in this season with Abigail, like, seeing the Nether, and once again she's all like, oh, I can take it, I'm gonna go. She's always very just ambitious about doing these things, and actually see her get beaten. See her really just get beaten and lose, and really realize, like, the power of the Nether and what she's actually up against. And we were thinking this would have been a good opportunity, because it would have been a really nice contrast with, like, well, we would have seen the Nether in the beginning as this tease, that the Nether's coming, and then here would have been the point where, like, she gets a confrontation with them. Like, they've been flying, everything was just, like, high on the positivity, happiness scale. Everything seems very light, and the music's very happy. And then get a really intense contrast suddenly with, like, as they're flying, they see, like, a Nether portal open or something, and then they would have had this fight with, like, Abigail would have seen it. Alistair would be like, oh, we gotta get back to the others and stuff. And Abigail would have seen it and been like, no, I'm going now or whatever, being like she always does. And she would have gone in straight towards the Nether portal. Alistair would have been advising her to stay back. And the idea was she would have, like, gone towards the Nether portal, and then she would have seen, like, wither skeletons, maybe even a single Natharan or something. Could have been something like Scorch or something, or maybe even could have been Vulcanus, or saved him or something. And then she would have tried to fight them. She has weapons now. She has more training, but then it would have been cool if she maybe even, like, went through the Nether portal after that. They were trying to retreat. She goes in after the Nether portal, and then she just gets completely overwhelmed. The Nether completely beating her, and she realizes that these Natharans are way more powerful than she is, especially without her, like, Ender Knight armor yet. So we would have really seen her starting to lose. Although she's trained a bunch, she's still not, like, a big fighter. She's still just a farmer with a bunch of ambition and a little bit of training that she's been getting lately. And that would have been a good point for then Alistair, Denny, Sax and Trevor all to kind of come through the portal and kind of help out or something, and then kind of pull her away and get her back to safety. So it'd been a good moment to get all of them kind of working together, get the Nether there, and show that Abigail, although always going in first, that's not like how it's going to be anymore. She needs to think more as in a team, be more of the kind of Ender Queen, work with like her team, and rather than just jumping all in head first all the time. That's just an idea. That's just a potential idea. We never really explored it. Maybe we would have rewritten it. That was just something I had been thinking I wanted to maybe explore, to get the Nether happening sooner, and to get kind of some more moments with Alistair, and to show that Abigail's more vulnerable and that the Nether are stronger than previous enemies that she's been fighting. Yeah, although the script doesn't have any of that. The script just has them flying, that's the end. And we see a little bit of the whole... see a little bit of Denny being kind of sad that Denny was kind of... I imagine Denny kind of right away had a little crush on Abigail. Denny's probably never really met anyone, or any girls at least. He's probably lived on his farm all his life. So I imagine he was kind of crushing on Abigail, and then Alistair comes in. So you kind of feel a little bad for Denny, but at the same time, we would have made Alistair seem like someone who was still pretty cool, and people would have still liked Abigail, and Alistair is also kind of shippable or whatever. There's also, I noticed I skipped over the funny bit where there was like Saxon and Trevor, and they were doing the they were giving him like the speed potion, and Trevor started going like crazy, running fast around, like nice little comedy. Season 2 I also felt was better at that. I feel like Season 2 had more of the kind of like just kind of integrated comedy in the scenes. It was just kind of funny and make you smile a little more. Season 1 didn't have much of that. It was, other than like some of the grim stuff, Season 1 was a little dry. It was a little like serious, a lot of world building and stuff. Season 2 a lot of stuff like giving this guy a potion, he's just kind of running by. You see him just kind of running back and forth in the background, like as Abigail and Denny are talking and they're looking over the map, and Trevor just kind of run by, and you just be kind of going by. The bits with like Greg, I'm sad that the comedy stuff really got kind of held off. Well, not intentionally, it just kind of happened that way. Anyway, oh, and the one other thing I was going to mention here is that as far as the dragons go, there's an interesting little thing I had always considered. I don't know if anyone would have ever picked up on this, especially from reading the script, probably not. But so they go off, they do their little flying, and they're going crazy. They're flying around, this stuff's happening. Oh yeah, he's finally starting to wear off his potion. But maybe it was next episode. But there's a bit where Denny mentions that at one point he took a trip to Diamond Heights and he was delivering some food or whatever, and he saw that the Alistair Evanstein III or whatever, the Evansteins or whatever, that they had the dragon egg as just this relic. They had a lot of money. They just own a dragon egg for no reason, because dragon eggs are all dormant, so they're just kind of decorative at this point. And there's a bit where Denny had seen it and been up to the Ender egg, and that was kind of recently. That had been that had been a while ago, you know. That had been around the time of Season 1. And then now Alistair showed up with Thunderdome in Season 2. So I had always kind of imagined, this is never confirmed, it's just a theory that I have. As a writer, I have my own theories on some of this stuff that may or may not be true. But I imagined when Denny went and saw that egg, you could theorize that Thunderdome was actually beginning to awaken then for Denny. That would have been around the time of Season 1, where then, because Thunderdome and Luna are about the same age, Thunderdome's slightly younger, that Thunderdome may have started to awaken then for Denny, but then Denny left, went back to the farm, then the egg stayed, you know, with the Evansteins, then they ended up giving it to Alistair, letting Alistair be the dragon rider or whatever, thinking it's for Alistair. Dragon, not knowing who it was meant for, ended up kind of being raised with Alistair. But then I always imagined that there was a slight possibility that was actually Denny's dragon from the start, which made sense that then Denny gets Thunderdome later on and they kind of bond and stuff. Just an interesting idea. Anyway, back to the script. Zarya down in the Necromancer mines. Good to see Zarya again. I like Zarya. His story in the whole series is cool. It's cool seeing it in Season 3. He gets to actually kind of work with the protagonist. It's nice how a lot of these characters in Season 1 who seem kind of minor or like villains end up actually by the end like becoming kind of notable and doing a lot of stuff. He feeds some of the dudes to the children. We get to see the Necrolord speaking this season, which is nice. And Necrolord's kind of creepy, speaks a little weird. He has this kind of I always imagine Necrolord kind of like the G-Man from Half-Life, where he kind of has these slight pauses as he thinks of words to say, as if like he doesn't even, like, he's been so into this whole necromancer thing, working with the undead, that he's almost like forgotten his own language, just like speaking with humans. Kind of goes in this weird just like cult of these necromancers and stuff. Anyway, 2 hours in, we're not even at the end of episode 5. Woo-wee! Alright, so we're moving along, and Lucan sees Nika, but Nika's all indoctrinated, doesn't notice anything, and Rhea comes out of the little place they were in, and Rhea's like, yo, we gotta get back to the Knights, and then Heber's like, oh, no, we're all good. We all survived. Although I did, say that I thought we agreed not to go after the Deathsinger alone, and then we did it anyway. Then Heber's here is kind of like, well, we met someone, and like, okay, what's so amusing about this and stuff? And then Rhea comes in like, okay, so who's this new kid? And then turns out, Tidesinger. Welcome back, Rhea Sandaris. My name is Achille the Stars. I am the Tidesinger. Cut to black. Oh god, the Tidesinger's back. So then another cliffhanger kind of ending. Now the Tidesinger's back in the story. We get to see him involved again. And if you remember in one of the behind the scenes, I mentioned that there were two things that I always thought didn't make any sense with the story, but we left them in there just for the sake of what made better. Like, it made less sense story-wise, but it made for a better story, if that makes sense. There were two things that were like that. One of them was how the heck, or why the whole portal would rip the songs away, but we needed them to get ripped away so people would believe they're dead, and so Deathsinger could reclaim them again, which would be more interesting. The other thing to make sense is, so Tidesinger survived. At the end of Season 1, past the credits, you see that he gets back up over the edge of the cliff. In fact, if you see him, we'd actually left an area. Where am I? There we go. There's an area where he knocks him off. Where was it? There it is. Oh, just covered in snow, so it looks weird. When it's not covered in snow, there's just like this kind of flat area here. So he knocked him off. He just landed down here. But then I imagine Deathsinger went over the edge. Might have appeared as if he was dead, but he was really just like maybe knocked out or something. Tidesinger comes through the portal. But then there's this weird kind of... So Tidesinger had been following the Deathsinger and stuff and kind of hunting them and spying on them and tracking them. But it didn't really make much sense. Like, in 6 months he'd been following them. He never stopped to go like talk to the Ardoni clans, never see where he was, never went to a city. He never realized that there's a huge time jump. Doesn't make much sense. But you have to just kind of roll with it because we obviously didn't want to have Tidesinger come back to society in the meantime. We could have probably rewrote some weird side thing in, but everything would have changed. We just kind of wanted Tidesinger to kind of show back up like he'd been following the Deathsinger. And that's why he showed up now, right after the Deathsinger's kind of fight, because he followed him, and for once he followed Deathsinger and noticed that there was people going up against Deathsinger, so he decides to talk to him, and that's where he meets these characters. So we finally meet the Tidesinger, and he's now going to kind of join them. They talk, beepity-boppity, zippity-zoopity. Okay, maybe it was both these episodes that, yeah, it was 5 and 6 that we get to spend a long time with the characters. I think it was actually more of 6 that I was thinking of. 6 was the episode where you really get to... 5 was a little bit of a cool down, but then 6 is the one where you really get to spend time with everyone. We learn what happened to Tidesinger and what's up with Tidesinger. Then Saxon, Denny, the Navigal, they all stop for the night. We get to actually learn more about the Ender Knights. They start talking about themselves. This whole scene was going to get rewritten. I don't like scenes where they just basically say who they are and what they do. That's why we had that scene with them Knights of Ardenia talking about their weapons, having something else explain their character rather than just explaining the characters themselves is so much better. So we were going to rewrite a lot of this. And again, we have Alistair here being just an a-hole, which was also going to change. But one thing we were going to keep was some of this idea here where it's like, the idea between Alistair was, or the idea we were going to have for Alistair, what was supposed to happen with Alistair was that he wasn't such a crazy weirdo, he wasn't such a lunatic, but he had a different idea in what the Ender Knights should be doing. And that was where the division was and why it would still end up with him betraying them and stuff. The idea was that Abigail never set out to become an Ender Knight or anything. It just kind of happened, and she was like, okay, if I'll rule the Ender Knights if I must. I'll do what I should, and I'll do my best. Alistair, having known a bit about like what the Ender Knights used to be in the past, had more stories of them, knew that the Ender Knights used to rule Ardonia, and then when Rendor stepped down, broke the world into kingdoms. When everything kind of became divided into kingdoms and there was no, like, you know, Ender Knight rule, that was when the Nether's like, oh, now's our chance. Ender Knights are stepping down, but let's go attack. So Alistair's believing that throughout this whole time, Alistair's thinking and talking to Abigail about how they need to become Ender Knights and re-rule Ardonia, basically like merge the kingdoms back into one rule, become the leaders again. And Abigail's like, no, that's you know, the people wanted to get free of these kingdoms because they didn't like being kind of ruled by these kings and stuff. They wanted to have their own, like, kind of more local kingdoms and local states and stuff. But then Alistair believes the opposite, and they both justify. You know, Alistair has a point. When they did split up, when people got all their freedoms and stuff, that was when the war, the Great War, kind of began. The Great War wouldn't have happened, all this stuff, if it wasn't for that, honestly. So Alistair has a point, and that was what I'm saying about the whole. We wanted to make him a normal character with the normal stuff, and then he just has a difference in what he thinks the Internet should be doing. He wants to kind of rule, but then we would have made that story would have kind of gone a little further. They would have started having a little bit of a divide. He would have started to realize that his idea wasn't going to happen, and all the other Ender Knights were on Abigail's side about they didn't really want to rule Ardonia. So Alistair would have started kind of having this bit of separation, a bit of a, you know, bit of a distance. This was a bit I was talking about where Denny mentioned touching the egg at one point or something. So we learned a lot about the Ender Knights, but that would have been rewritten a lot. We also get a moment where we learn more about Kiyoshi and Natsuki. Natsuki talks about herself, how she left everything. The only way she could ever, like, do these two things was to become a chronicler, to get the kind of venture and to do these things they want to. And then Kiyoshi finally gets this big reveal about this stuff. He finally gets to talk about some of his family and why in season 1 there's a bit where he's like, ever since my father, and he kind of is like hard to say it. I imagine Kiyoshi kind of almost resents his father because of, like, these just high expectations of, like, you're going to be the next Captain of the Guard, you got to do all these things, and even more so now that there's, like, this war going on and there's all this pressure down to keep doing the same thing and live up to their legacy. Now that even more difficulty because of the Necromancer battle and stuff, and all these expectations, and then this sad bit at the end was like, if the Necromancers beat us, be the first captain who let the city fall in a sea. Notice he doesn't say, I'll be the first captain to allow Flora to fall or be destroyed. He's just the first captain to ever let the city even fall under siege. So not only does he allow the city to fall under siege, get attacked, but he also, he loses it. He will not let that happen. He tries so hard. Poor Kiyoshi tries so hard to defend the city, defend Feldon. That's why the Green Arc was always called the Fight for Feldon. Season 2 is a lot more about Kiyoshi, honestly, than Luke and Nika. Luke and Nika have this kind of side thing with the being indoctrinated, and Luke is trying to get back. But Season 2, in the Green Arc, is actually more of Kiyoshi's story. I feel like Kiyoshi intentionally kind of took a little more of the focus in this season, and almost had, like, his kind of arc. But then, we all know how that turns out. Then, meanwhile, Knights of Ardonia, they get another messenger bird from Gallius, and they want to see Tidesinger. And on the map, you can kind of see they were over here at the vault. So they were kind of probably camping out around there. They're going to go to Ataraxia, and then head back down to Crown Peak, which I know is a little bit of a weird journey, but, don't look at the map. Just pretend. Just imagine. So then they get another... So we had Knights of Ardonia... we had the Ender Knights. Get to learn more about them at night. Kiyoshi and Natsuki sitting around the campfire at Ferndale at night. Learn more about them. And now you get to learn more about the rest of the Knights of Ardonia. Again, get some more talk with them. Get to learn more about gets a chance here to finally talk about the Jagathan species and how now is where he really explains them and how they kind of level up and stuff, and why they are all kind of they've been where are they? I don't know how there's not much Jags anymore. They don't see any more Jags. And then here's where we get a bit that's interesting, where it's like Hubris mentions this stuff about how Deathsinger only killed 3 of the 4 masters. Aegis Nestoris, the master of my clan, survived. Deathsinger wasn't all powerful. He couldn't kill Aegis. Hubris, being Nestoris, thinking like, yeah, my clan's good. We weren't my clan master was able to stop Deathsinger. What you'll realize is that, when we get to the end of the series, that wasn't the case. Obviously, was that, remember in season 1, there's a lot of little hints in season 1 during the tournament where it was like Aegis was the last one to turn and leave when all the masters like denied Deathsinger the Prime Songs. Aegis remained a little bit, knowing who the Deathsinger was that whole time, and realized like, oh man, it's a shame that they're not gonna give you the songs. I guess I won't either. I guess I can't. And he's kind of sad for Deathsinger, knowing that what Deathsinger was planning, who wasn't called Deathsinger at the time, just Ingressus. But then, and the Tidesinger was there at the tournament and everything. So you learn that the reason Aegis didn't die was that the Deathsinger he chose not to kill him because of their kind of connection and stuff, which is kind of sad. Deathsingers are the ultimate tragedy. Kyoshi's second tragedy. Yeah, and Hebers doesn't believe the whole. So Hebers thinks that the Deathsinger used some kind of dark magic or other trickery or something. Period. Doing script edits at this time, still editing the script. But then what you'll realize at the end is the reason the Deathsinger was gold was actually the reason he was yellow Nestoris colors was actually the simplest answer that no one wanted to believe, no one even considered, was that the master, Aegis Nestoris, literally just brought Deathsinger into the clan. Deathsinger was red, he was Voltaris. Aegis wanted to kind of protect him, so he brought him into the gold clan. That way people wouldn't know he's Voltaris and kind of hid him. But then Deathsinger, having the staff of the Voltaris, the Voltar, being this clan master, was able to initiate himself back into his own clan during the tournament. So now you'll kind of know how that all happened. Tidesinger sits with Sen, gets a nice moment of bond between Tidesinger and Sen. We get to see even Tidesinger's story is kind of sad because now everyone he ever known is gone now. He didn't have too many connections anymore. Like the main person he bonded with was Ingressus growing up. And then Ingressus came and killed like almost his whole family, almost killed Aegis, and they all had to move. And then he spent the rest of his life kind of hunting Ingressus in the Great War. He ran through that portal after Ingressus, having no idea that was a time portal, and now he's kind of lost all the stuff. But he's still going on. He's still trying to complete what he started, try to defeat the Deathsinger. Take another swig of water real quick. Where are we? There's not really... I don't have a location for this. There's nothing really to show. We learn a little bit about the... You get to see a moment about Sen and kind of explaining a little bit about kind of everything that's happened and kind of looking back at all the stuff that's happened a little bit so you don't just kind of forget everything. And this is interesting. I as well lost my closest brother to the Deathsinger. Hopefully people got that. His closest brother was Ingressus. The clans always refer to their other clan members as like brothers and sisters, regardless of if they're actually brother and sister. So Ingressus was raised as an Nestoris, so he was technically kind of like a brother to Tidesinger. And he lost his brother, Ingressus, to the Deathsinger. He became Deathsinger. It's basically like the whole, Anakin was destroyed by Vader kind of thing. Deathsinger was a name given to Ingressus after he fell and after he went kind of crazy after Prime Songs and he did his horrible deeds and stuff, and the dark deeds. So you'll notice throughout this series that Tidesinger, whenever he's referring to Ingressus, he usually refers to him as Ingressus. He's one of the few characters who consistently will call him Ingressus, unless he's referring to him as like, the Deathsinger, the one going around killing everyone. And in fact, Tidesinger's final line is about that. It's like, I would never harm you, Ingressus. You were my brother, you were my friend, but I will gladly kill the Deathsinger, as in, if you're going to keep doing what you're doing, if you're the Deathsinger and you're going to keep going down this path, I'll gladly kill and stop you to prevent you from doing what you're doing, but I don't actually want to hurt, the Ingressus. I want Ingressus back kind of thing. So, poor Tidesinger, Deathsinger, tragic kind of friendship story between them. Then we get to the End Temple. Once again, all these weird creepiness of... Even Thunderdome was kind of creepy. Yeah, Thunderdome looks at her... Wait. Oh, that change. Okay, so we did semi-rewrite some of that. Initially, Thunderdome was like doing an evil smile here. And in the early script, Thunderdome was in on it. Thunderdome was going to be like working with Alistair to betray them all along. But then we realized that would make Thunderdome so dislikable that who would ever want to ride Denny? Why would Denny ever want to ride Thunderdome? Why am I always saying the dragon riding the human? Anyway, so we kind of half rewrote that, but that was going to get even more rewritten. Let's go to the end portal. End portal school. Time was set 10 o'clock. Nice end portal here. So they find the end temple. Wow. Hey, please no burping. This is a important. Oh God, what are they doing? They're being weird. I look up and down and like, okay, it stopped. So they get in here, they go to the temple, they find their way down, there's the end portal. Cool, like, sky that looks into the weird, like, space stuff. They find there and they're like, oh, I guess we should kind of go through, and they're then good old Saxon and Trevor. There's so many nice dynamics in Season 2. There's all these different characters. That's what was really missing in Season 1. Abigail's just alone, hunting. She meets, like, Darlene, and that's it. She talks to Sen and Igneous momentarily, and that's it. Season 2 is full of all these characters with nice dynamics. And they're, Denny, Saxon and Trevor are kind of like teasing each other, like, oh, so which of us are going to go first? And he's like, I bet you're not going to go. Oh, yeah, well, it's not going to be you. And then Denny just hops in. Denny's first. They're all arguing about who's going to be brave enough to go, and Denny just hops in first. Kind of one you'd least expect. And then they go in and make it to the end. And Castle. I'm going to turn on my shaders. It's really messed up. So that would have been another nice cliffhanger. They finally made it into the end. And I think they were going to arrive way off this side. So now I'll show off some of the end. What the? Oh, I still have it there. The end was never finished. It's not done. There's a lot of missing places. But the idea, we would have made a little spot here where they would have come through the portal. There would have been this kind of like entry area here. They would have come out and seen the end. We really wanted to customize the end a lot. In Minecraft, the end is really flat. It's like all the islands are like this. They're all the exact same level, and they're really just big blobs. You look up, you just see nothing, void. We wanted to make the end more kind of like the Ataraxia, where you come out and you look up and you see like floating end islands everywhere, and bits of like the end city is kind of everywhere because they have elytras, ender pearls, dragons. I saw the Enderites as being very like mobile, aerially, if that makes sense. Like they could fly and stuff in many different ways. They could get around. So their cities would be made like almost kind of defying gravity in this weird end of dimension, where they would have like upside down towers hanging from the stuff, and you just see stuff above you, see stuff under you. So that's what we were working on. We never got there. They did make it into the end. I will fly around here briefly though, just to kind of show off some of the cool and stuff we made. I wanted to make I made the islands themselves way more interesting. I kind of saw it as like the end core stuff kind of looks like big, like coral reefs and stuff. So I thought I'd make these things these big kind of like shelves and stuff sticking out. You get these weird kind of formations that you can be kind of used. Cool end bridges. This is what I mean about there's like a tower that's like upside down, like hanging and stuff. And there's all kinds of there's the that's where the Trials of the End takes place in Season 3. But yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff. There's none of these. There's even a bit of a city up here, and everything's kind of connected. You can land your dragon on like the landing pad. We literally have like little landing pads, so you can park your dragon there. Put the dragon in the garage. Yeah, there's another landing pad. You can see it's kind of unfinished. We didn't quite finish the end. Do I have an elytra? Yeah, but we do have like it's quite developed as far as we add lots of little plants and stuff, and we have little homes where the Ender Knights used to live. They have like beds and stuff in a normal living space up here. That was their castle down there. They don't really live there. Yeah, that's the end. So what's next? Yeah, that was a cliffhanger for episode 6. Episode 7 is a cool one because we get both. We briefly see the end. At the end, that's like the cliffhanger. So now we had a cliffhanger. They finally made it to the end. The first time we've really been in another dimension in the whole series. We haven't been in the Nether. We haven't been in the end. And we finally get to go in the end. At the end of that episode. Good old way to end that episode. Next episode, we get to see both the end and the Nether more fully. That was kind of... We coincided those a little more interestingly enough. Episode 7 opens in the Nether, which is an episode I was looking forward to a lot. Just because... the Nether's awesome. Nether looks freaking cool. I think the Nether is one of the builds I was most happy with how it turned out. I tend to think that with the builds I worked on, maybe because I spent a long time on them. It was heavily involved, but in general, I just thought Nether's was really cool looking. This episode would have opened in the Nether, so you'd be expecting like normal stuff, and you would have seen lava, and seen like the Nether stuff going on, like, oh wow, we're here. Tensions rising. We're getting like the big stuff you saw from the prologue when we saw the Nether Sea and these Nether armies mobilizing. We're now at that point in the story. Finally, we're at the point where we're seeing these Netharans. We're seeing the Deathsinger speaking to the Nether King, Pythis, who's now the Nether King, and we're starting to get all this like, all that tension's high. We're at the end of this. We're getting close to the end of the season, and now you can see why this like season 2 and 3. There's just all this stuff's finally happening now. It's like all the big build-up's been leading up to this stuff. Anyway, we're in the Nether. We get a bit where Deathsinger had been talking to Pythis. Pythis would have been on the throne. A little bit of explanation on some of this bit, kind of talking in broader terms of season 3 and stuff as well. The idea was Kronos was their old previous king, and then when Kronos pulled out and left the Great War fight, remember the bit in the first episode in the prologue, there's a bit where it talks about the Nether retreating, and we see Kronos kind of heading back to the portal. He looks over his shoulder one last time and then goes through. So Kronos left. He realized his troops were losing. He wanted to kind of protect his own people. He realized the war was not worth it at that point. He wanted to protect the rest of his Netharans and his people and whatnot. So he pulled out, retreat. But he did retreat. He kind of broke the alliance with the Deathsinger and stuff, which was bad, but also he cared about his people. Pythis, however, was very against that. Vulcanus was a little more for that. Pythis being so against it, and also being one of the leading like members of the army. He wasn't the king, but he had his own kind of following, his own group. He has people who respected Pythis. That was why in the opening episode we got to see this fight with Pythis against the Ender Knight. That was kind of showing that Pythis was really tough. He wasn't quite Kronos, but he also had this, big axe that was handed down from his grandfather or something. Huge axe. He'd been like an Ender Knight killer, a dragon killer, a person who was well respected in the army, but he wasn't the rightful king or a successor. It would have actually been Vulcanus. Vulcanus was the successor if Kronos should die. Ended up though, which we learned this in season 3, I think. Way later in season 3, Vulcanus reveals this. That's that Pythis ends up killing Kronos when they go back to the Nether, takes control, and starts rebuilding his armies and stuff. So one day he'll be the one to conquer the overworld where his father failed. But not being the real king, he doesn't wear the crown, and he doesn't have the Nether blade. He locks both those away in one of the Nether vaults, which they bust into in season 3 when Vulcanus is trying to get those things, so he can prove that he was the real king. And at the time, people did kind of know, but people were, it was a big kind of, probably big, basically civil war thing again, probably some tension, a lot of stuff. Pythis assumed control. No one really wanted to stand up against him. People were like, okay, whatever. Which is interesting, because that also kind of explains why the Angel of Death character makes an appearance, and that was a character who I thought was very different. He doesn't really fit in. He's not a Wither Skeleton, he's not a Netharn, he's this kind of weird other group, another faction. And that kind of makes sense with the whole Pythis had his own kind of like group and followers, and the Angel of Death is one of them who's very loyal to Pythis, even knowing that Pythis isn't the king. The Angel of Death, there's a bit, I think, where, as they're talking, Deathsinger starts stepping forward. Deathsinger takes a few steps, like, your father realized, and the Angel of Death comes down and lands, stops him, like, protecting Pythis. We get the good Angel of Death reveal, which I was also really looking forward to. All these Animation Life villains, like Angel of Death, Dreadlord, who's the Necrolord, and of course at the end of the season, Herobrine, they were all planned to kind of be in here, because I thought the villains were really cool in the Animation Life, and a lot of them fit very cinematically, so that would have been a great reveal, like boom, the Angel of Death flies down and lands. Angel of Death is in the series, surprise. which would have been cool seeing. But anyway, now we see why Pythos here is like, Death Singer's like, your father realized like the strength in our alliance, but Pythos is going on about like, oh, you're a lot weaker now than you were last time, and we failed last time. Why do you think we're gonna succeed this time? And then Death Singer tries to get on his side about like, oh, well, your father realized. And then Pythos is like, my father's a fool. Oh, okay, no, Pythos does reveal this. Right. Okay, Pythos reveals that he killed Kronos so he could take the throne. But what he doesn't reveal is that there was a Vulcanus, the actual person who should rule. And somewhere around here, yeah, this bit I knew this is a bit. So as Pythos is saying this, like, I put a sword through him so the coward would never rule again. And as he was saying that, you would have, sorry, the lava's getting all bubbly. As he was saying that, you would notice there's Vulcanus would have been up on these little upper areas, kind of watching. And it would have shown Vulcanus and how he had been a little emotionally affected by those words, because that was, his father is talking about, and Vulcanus knows that Vulcanus is the person who should be ruling, and he hates that Pythos killed his dad, but then also had to kind of go along with it because now he's the new king and kind of has to just deal with it. So that was a nice little moment where we kind of introduced a little bit of Vulcanus, but we don't really see Vulcanus till next season. And we could even see Vulcanus in season 1 next to the throne. Pythos and Vulcanus were little itty-bitty babies at that point, and now they're much older. Good thing the Natharans live really long, so they were young at that time, and they're still kind of young now. They're still like, kind of young adult age now. They're slightly younger during the Great War, but already building reputations for themselves and stuff. Anyway, then Death Singer convinces him, kind of. Well, Death Singer sort of convinces him, but you don't quite realize. Did he convince him? Did he not? Because we see, like, Pythos still thinking about, what are all these nether sounds? Is this nether music or nether ambience? That's weird. So we don't quite know what Pythos decides at the end of this episode, which is, of course, the surprise at the end of the next episode. Meanwhile, oh right, yeah, that's right. Oh, I skipped over the bit where Igneous went back to Maxwell's house. He got kind of captured by the guards. They realized he was kind of involved in some stuff to try to. Malachi realized that, so they went to arrest him. Luckily, Borgin shows up and drops a pile of pickaxes, and then they're like, "Oh, move aside!" And then Borgin and some of his friends attack the guards, help free Igneous. And then this was a nice little bit where... So this was a late little addition, and I'll get to that a little bit more when I get to Season 3, probably. One of the things we rewrote, or one of the things we added to the script really close to the end, and I mean really, there's a point where we're like, okay, the script's done, we're good enough, it's as good as it's going to get, we could spend forever on it, improving it, but we got to start making the series. And we cut the script off. We started doing the auditions like the next day. That was when we said we were done. We're going to start doing the casting. So right as we started doing the casting, there was 2 big changes we realized that we still needed to make. Luckily, it was just casting. People hadn't been doing voice work yet, so we had time to make some more adjustments. One of those adjustments was there was never a point where Sen ever learned about Igneous dying at all. We just missed it. We forgot about it. We had Igneous die, we had other characters talking about it, but we never had Sen learn about it. And I guess that was because in the writing, Sen and Igneous weren't really that big of like a companion group friend in the overall series. In 30 episodes, they met each other in 7, they were briefly together in 8, had a moment in 9, and then they left in 10. There's just like 4 episodes, 4 little scenes basically of Sen and Igneous, and that was it. So I never really saw them as like this big of a dynamic in the whole series. People kind of, when you saw Season 1, yeah, it was a lot of Season 1. So I never really thought about it, we missed it. So we went back in and we wrote this little bit here where Igneous had all his books with him in Hogtown. He's supposed to have kept those with him in his kind of magical inventory that I mentioned in the episode 1 behind the scenes. He had his books. When he got taken, the other Magnites would have grabbed his books. The ones who took his stuff, made sure he didn't have anything on. They confiscated his stuff. And then when he gets broken out, Igneous is like, wait, I gotta get my books. They tried to take my weapons, but I didn't have any, so I took out my books instead. So then he's grabbing his books again off the floor, and like, come on, we gotta go. And then right when they get in the minecart here, he's still holding all his books. It's kind of like, he's still holding all the books in his hand. He's like, here, you hold these for me. Make sure I can. Oh, he just says, watch my books, please. Gives him. I think he did a funny improv on that line. But anyway, hands him the books, and that's how then his books ended up in the random Magnarite's hands, who stay behind defending the entrance. He's like, you two wait here, make sure no one follows us. Igneous hands one of those guys the books, and that's how then Igneous's books got passed on to that guy. That way, when Igneous would die, Borgin would eventually be able to return the books to Sen, who was his kind of only and closest friend. And that was, we kind of wrote that little thing in at the end. That way Sen could receive the books after Igneous died, so he could kind of read about the stuff Igneous had written and read and stuff. So, nice little late addition. Let me go back to the, what is it? It was Tartarus Tunnel? Yeah. So, more little, like, kind of, this is what I was talking about. This season is almost more like those kind of little comedy moments. Little just kind of fun moments that really weren't in season 1, I feel like, that much. There's bits where... Oh, it's a little bit later. Okay, well, I'll just mentally skip ahead. There's a bit where, like, the little minecarts come down, and then some of, like, the minecarts came down, there's, like, the Magnarite ready to receive it at the end, and it's like, there's nothing in it, and he just kind of looks around. What actually happened? I just remember it being kind of funny. Pulls the TNT out, pushes the minecart, empty minecart appears. Yeah, then just like little things, but just like the minecart comes, it's just empty. Another one comes out and it's empty. He's like, oh, okay, whatever. Just leaves. He's like, okay, what's going on there? Just like little, just kind of moments where it kind of stops all the kind of drama and tension stuff to have some kind of little bit of fun here and there. And I feel like it's a lot better with that here. Then we get a scene in Ataraxia. The main point of this was just finally getting explained what happened to Tidesinger, how he survived and stuff, how he'd been hunting him. We get to learn how Thalius had really stopped Deathsinger from getting the Prime songs, and that's why some people were surprised that Thalius' final line about, like, whatever the Voltash are planning, I will stop it. People were like, oh, well, he died, he didn't stop it. Well, he kind of did stop it by moving all the Prime songs, stop the Deathsinger from returning and getting all the Prime songs, which is what they were planning. Sorry, I'm getting thirsty again. Drink time. I've been talking non-stop for 2 hours and 31 minutes. Alright, excuse me. Well, yeah, I'm gonna have a sore throat after this. That was the first point in the scene. The other point was getting Gallius to finally wheel his song again. And also, it's a good opportunity to show Tidesinger as the Tidesinger. Tidesinger is someone who's very influential. He's very inspirational. He can talk to people and work with people, and he can make people stand up and fight. We wanted to show that here with, like, we kind of mentioned that in the prologue, like, Tidesinger turned the tides and gathered the armies and allied everyone and stuff. And he's just really good with that. He's really good with kind of working with people, and he talks to Gallius, and he kind of talks to Gallius about the songs and how the songs themselves aren't evil. They might kind of corrupt people a little bit, but you can use songs, you know, to bring peace and stuff, and you can use songs well and stuff. And how Gallius used to be a great mentor, and Gallius used to... Oh, there's another thing I didn't mention. Not only does Gallius hate the use of songs, but Gallius used to teach songs. That was his thing. Prior to him not using songs anymore, when he stopped liking them, before that, he used to actually be a song instructor. Like, he would train people to use songs, and that was one of the reasons he felt like, you know, and he even probably trained Thalius to wield songs, and then Thalius went out and used them in a war, came back and used it against Gallius, and then that's why he stopped training him. He used to be this great song trainer and stuff. I forgot about that. More weird ambience in the Minecraft. So then, now we get to see what Gallius' green song was that he had. Gallius had that green song, is the one he kept. He got rid of all the other ones, but he kept this one. It was the one he used to do the blacksmithing and stuff. It basically helps with, like, the metals and melts the metals down and helps with the smithing. And this is why this song was kind of the reason we gave the green songs the kind of dumb category as a joke. We kind of made fun of them, because whenever we needed some weird song for something, we just put it in the green category, even if it was, like, oddly specific, like Gallius. I've got a song that helps me blacksmith. Well, what if you don't like smithing and you're not an armor smith or weaponsmith? Well, then the song's pretty much useless, and that's why we call it the Uselessium ones as a joke. But now we finally get to see kind of what it is. Well, very briefly, we don't quite see what it is. He says, yeah. So Gallius thinks about using the song. He watches the Knights of Ardonia all kind of leaving. Gallius watches, goes back into the blacksmith. He takes his song up. He goes to the shrine. He wields it once again. We see him doing something with obsidian. It's kind of unknown what he's doing with the obsidian. But he mentioned in episode 2, he mentioned when talking to Val. Not Val, sorry, when talking to Abigail. He's like, where is it? There's only one blacksmith in all of Ardonia who can create obsidian armor. Basically, the armor that the Ender Knights wear. But then, so he's like, he says only one can create it. Doesn't say who. Then says, you gotta go to the end and reclaim the armor yourself, you know. Not, because he could create it, he chooses not to at the moment because he doesn't want to use the song. But then here he makes the decision to use it, and that's where he then ends up making the armor for Abigail, the one that'll fit her. A cool little tangent on Ender armor. Something I always thought was cool with Ender armor was the idea was it was like basically the most powerful armor you could forge, but it was made of because it was made of obsidian. And obsidian's super strong, but obsidian's also super heavy. So if you just have normal Ender, if you make obsidian armor and just give it to a random person, it's gonna be way too heavy to use and kind of pointless. But the idea was that for the Ender Knights, it had the obsidian would kind of react to the Ender Knights and have that kind of end energy stuff that obsidian seems to always be associated with like nether portals and the big obsidian pillars that you find in the end. So the idea was when an Ender Knight wears it, the armor would like activate and then have this kind of magical property, would become way lighter but retain the strength. So you would have the strength of obsidian armor but lightweight, so the Ender Knights could wield them. So only the Ender Knights could wield the obsidian armor stuff, which I thought was really cool. Anyway, Alistair gets here. Alistair and the rest of the Ender Knights, they get to the end. This was also something that was going to change a lot. Was one of the ideas was that Abigail was the first female Ender Knight, and that was just kind of like a random little side, just to kind of make it a little bit more like, is she an Ender Knight? Is she not? Just to, if it was just, oh, you might be an Ender Knight, you might not. Well, then obviously she is. But having that kind of, you might be the first female, or you are the first female, might make it a little more questionable whether it was actually like true or an action or something. But we were probably going to tone back a lot more on that. We noticed that was taking more of the focus when it wasn't really supposed to. That's supposed to be just kind of like a little aside, like, oh, there just happens to not be any female Ender Knights, and that's kind of reason why she had to get a new set of armor made. But somehow it ended up becoming a lot more of the focus for some weird reason. But there's going to be more on the whole like the differences between Alistair and Abigail and how they saw different things. Then he tries to. Oh. So they get in the castle. One of these rooms off to the side would have been like a little armory. Most of them get there in armor. And interestingly enough, they're just using old armor from previous Ender Knights, and so most of those armors that were in Season 1, those Ender Knights walking out, would have been the armor that these characters would have taken, or at least very similar or something. In fact, I was going to have King Rendor's armor would have been taken by Denny unknowingly, like he would have just picked up some armor and it would have been King Rendor's. As a kind of cool little, Denny was this kind of random nobody, ends up wielding the previous King's armor, not knowingly. In fact, there's even, if I go into the, check this out, man. Meals on Wheels. Where's the Ender Knights? Here we go. If this was what the scene looked like in, you'll remember this is what it finally ended up looking like. There we go. That's like what that shot ended up looking like at the end. That's King Rendor in his armor. But when I was doing the early tests, King Rendor was going to be like this. He was going to have blue eyes, and his pink and blue would kind of blend. But then I realized I wanted to keep that as a separate thing for Denny. Denny would have Rendor's armor, but his armor would have lit up a little bit like that. It would have been a little more unique. Because we knew in Season 3 we were going to need to be able to tell all the Ender Knights apart, so you could tell who's who. So Denny's thing was his was going to be blue eyes and kind of this kind of blue and pink mix, or blue and purple mix. Because Denny had blue eyes and Denny had kind of blue clothing. So you'd be able to remember, oh, okay, the blue armor and the blue eyes, and that's probably Denny. Otherwise, it'd be hard telling all the Ender Knights apart when they're all wearing armor. That was a little thing I learned from all like the Clone Wars. They're really good about, even when the clones had their helmets on or off, you could usually tell which clone was which based on like the paint jobs, or they'd have like a little painting of something on their helmet but they also have a same tattoo of that same design on their heads. You can really tell who is who. So we're gonna have to think about that. Anyway, Lucan comes back, realizes, oh snap, the necromancers heading straight to. They aren't attacking Ferndale. They're going straight to the capital. They're going to Flora. Big problem because they were all here. If you look on the map, the idea is that the necromancers have been slowly advancing. They attacked Riverstead at the end of season 1. A lot of fights would have happened. Okay, you have to kind of imagine that over 6 months some more interesting stuff had happened. Maybe they slowly advancing. They finally took Fort Suka at the beginning of season 2. So then they're working their way up towards the capital. So Kiyoshi's defending here, defending the next point. But then the necromancers knew they were going to be doing that, skipped it, went straight to Flora. They're trying to get access to the beacons and stuff and take over all different cities. So then Kiyoshi's snap a rapper do. We gotta go. So they ride out to head back to Flora. So already he's realizing, man, this is going bad. Borgin. Oh, back to, okay, Ignis' death scene. Back to Tartarus Tunnel. So we get Ignis here, and they're like, oh man, all this TNT, they're gonna blow up the city from below. We gotta stop them, we gotta save all those people. And then Borgin's gonna go, he's got a torch, and he's like, what are they saying? They're like, yeah, let's see if we can detonate it early and stuff. Yeah, so Ignis didn't go out with the idea he was gonna sacrifice himself right now. The idea was that they're gonna light the TNT and run and both survive, but Ignis was hoping, maybe rather than just blowing that all up and, blowing it up kind of before it had a chance. The idea was that right now it's just in this main cave, but they were going to start putting it down into these tunnels, and blow open these big kind of weakened areas underneath and stuff. So they're going to blow it up early so it couldn't quite hit the city. Ignis is rather than blowing up everything right now, let's see if I can at least talk him out of it. Being typical Ignis, hoping he can talk him out. So we finally get a nice confrontation between him. This area would have had to been remade a lot. There's no room for we never even made the Redstone Trail. But the idea is he comes out, nice confrontation. There would have been a lot of other Magnerites on Malachi's side up here watching this big kind of moment of Ignis confronting Malachi. Everyone's watching, kind of like episode 1 with Thalius and Tiger and all the other Voltars kind of watching over. Ignis tries to talk him out of it. Unfortunately, this is where we really see that, Ignis is good at talking. I'm fine. I'm good at talking. He's good at talking. Kind of a little reference to how he's just really talkative. But his usual, hey, hello there, good day to you, gentlemen. And Malachi's not having any of it. This is kind of making fun of him the whole time. Ignis is trying to talk about how he's been oh, well, I was been outcast, I've been bullied, and so he's oh, we should have fought back and stuff, and kind of just making fun of him. And then he's alright, let's go have something, blah, blah, blah. Ignis is saying we should try to make peace, blah, blah. Malachi's not having any of that either. And Malachi's talking about how they're gonna, make the Magnerites tough and Carthan strong again and stuff. This would also probably been rewritten a little bit more to make both Malachi and Ignis a little more interesting. This is what we're saying about we wanted to have more moments with Malachi and Ignis throughout the season, but we never got around to writing that because we needed to cut stuff because we didn't know if we could do season 2, and then we couldn't anyway, so oh well. And then Malachi's like, let's go fight. He doesn't want to talk it out and stuff. This is how real Magners negotiate, and then they start fighting. And then Ignis is like, oh, okay, I want to do this anyway. So then he goes back to the initial plan of just detonating it now and then running. But as soon as he detonates it, he lights. There would have been like a redstone torch thing that would have been running here, and it would have kind of detonated the stuff here. So he would have lit it, but then the trail would have been. I would have made the redstone go a lot slower than it does in the real thing. I would have had the redstone slowly lighting up, kind of like a fuse going down. Malachi gets ahead and then stops it or something, and then they're fighting over reigniting the trail. So there's been this nice kind of dramatic fight between Ignis and Malachi, two Magnerites fighting it out, while there's this redstone trail. Oh, the redstone trail is going. Malachi goes for it. I think then Ignis kind of jumps on him and grabs him. So they're having a kind of long fight for a while, and then finally, they're still fighting. Kind of gets Malachi off him for a bit, but then
then some of the other Magnaries at this point starting to realize that the trail's still kind of going and the stuff's about to start detonating, and it's kind of getting a little too late, so the other Magnaries start like getting the heck out of here as they're still fighting on. And then, boom, the big moment happens when Malachi finally starts really taking down Igneous, and there's a bit where he just, because they're Magnaries, these kind of big stones, I thought it wouldn't be quite as violent as if it was a human, but Igneous gets his arm completely like kind of punched off, almost ripped off, because it's a stone. Malachi is so strong, he just punches him. You wouldn't even quite have realized like what happened at first. You see Igneous like flying back and kind of landing down on the ground, and you're like, oh, what just happened? And you kind of would have seen the camera slowly revealing his arm was just missing. There's like bits of lava dripping out on the floor. Very like dramatic. The music would have all cut out, and he was there like, and it would have been just very powerful seeing like, oh man, you know, Igneous is about to die here. Malachi's just got him, and he's now missing an arm. And you know, again, you can use lava as like the feeling of blood without making it blood, making it quite as M-rated or anything. And I was going to rewrite this bit a little more. I had this idea where like right here he just kind of has his final bits and then blows it up. But I was going to have it even more like, I wanted to have a final moment with Igneous where, with only one arm, weakened, kind of bleeding out as lava, Malachi would have been talking about him and how he's weak and stuff and how he's still going to go. So then Malachi, he goes over, I think, and he after Malachi beats him, he kicks away, like, there have been like the repeaters, there have been a bunch of repeaters. He kicks away one of the repeaters, which then stops the redstone current, stops Igneous from, you know, blowing it up prematurely and saving the day. But then, you know, Malachi would have done that and been talking about how weak he was, and then he would have turned around and Igneous would have been slowly getting back up, missing an arm. He's still standing. He's not going to let that get him down. He's still like the last bit of energy, still wants to continue fighting, trying to save the stuff, save the city, kind of stop the war and stuff. So he's going to have one final fight, like with one arm. He would have gone up against Malachi one more time, and that one would have been way more emotional, and seeing him like still trying to keep the fight going with just one arm, he's going on. And I wanted to show a little of like kind of some of his like memories and moments with like Sen and the different characters and stuff on his journey and things he's met. He would kind of sing these moments, and then once again he gets thrown down again, doesn't, you know, still didn't work. But then when he gets thrown down, he's like, oh, you didn't think this through so much. And Igneous' final line, got one last idea. And then he would pull the torch out and just light one of the TNT, rather than lighting like the redstone current, he just lights one of the TNTs right next to him. The whole place blows up. The whole tunnel would have had this huge like explosion down the tunnel. Borgin would have been waiting here. They would have been kind of already running off, seeing like what's going on. The kind of Magnarites turn around and see the big explosion. Up above on Phaethon, which if I fly up here, it actually is directly above us. Yeah, up here at Phaethon, we would have seen like the city and like just some people kind of hanging out. Big explosion would have been heard. Big ground rumbling would have had like right up against the edge of the city. Some of the edge of the city would have like fallen down this huge, giant like sinkhole that would have just appeared from the big cave-in. But the city would have been safe. People would have survived. And that was how that episode was. That was supposed to be an episode ending. That also got in the wrong spot. But the problem was that was going to be episode 6's ending. Episode 6 would ended with that big cliffhanger, rather than them showing up in the end or something. And this is where it got really messed up, because then Igneous had his actual death, and then Abigail has her fake death a moment later. But Abigail's fake death ended up like overshadowing Igneous' real death, so that was going to get shuffled around a bit. But Igneous dies, saves the city, kills Malachi in the process. Kind of shows that it, stopped the war from being reignited again and being further fueled. Back in the end, very epic moment with the end castle for the end story. They finally get to the middle of the castle. Alistair makes it to the throne first, sees the crown resting on the throne where Abigail had seen it in her little dream vision. But then Alistair's there first. And there's this nice moment where they're looking at it, and Alistair's up ahead and like seeing it, and they're like, Alistair, that's mine. I'm gonna be the one. I'm the Ender Queen. Don't take it. This isn't yours. And then he's like, why should it be? You don't want to be the queen anyway. You don't want to rule anything. I'll do it. I'll be the king. I'll rule as things once did. the other Knights kind of stand between Abigail and Alistair, not wanting him to, to do that. But he does anyway. But then Abigail kind of steps through the other Knights, tries to talk him out of it, and then Alistair comes over. And that's why this scene doesn't really work as well, because he was such a weirdo the whole time. But if they had been, like, good friends and stuff, he would have come down here now wearing... He would be all in the armor. He put all the armor on. He puts the thing on. His armor's all lit up. His crown's on. But then he walked up to Abigail. The crown wouldn't have been glowing, though. I think I mentioned. He puts the crown on. But yeah, the crown does not illuminate, which is unknown to the viewer at this time. Yeah, if you go back and rewatch it, you notice that it doesn't illuminate for him, but it illuminates for, like, the actual people who deserve it. But then he stabs Abigail, realizing that she's going to be, like, the main problem to him doing this whole new rule, because she didn't want to rule, and she knew that, and they're all saying they're basically going to stand up against him. So he kills her, throws her off this edge, and then just like in the dream, she has that kind of, she's been stabbed and just falls kind of down below. I would have had to edit this a little bit. There's supposed to be like little bits of end islands and stuff floating down there that she's able to kind of land on. But that would have been the nice big dramatic ending, and that's why that was in the wrong spot, because Igneous died, but then Abigail ends up surviving, which was kind of weird. But nice big climactic ending. You think a main character is killed off once again, season 2 with all these big moments. Next episode we got walls back at the Carthan Wall I showed earlier. I didn't show Malachi. What are the characters that we've been introduced to? I'll show a few characters. We have a few new characters we haven't met yet. Let's see. I never showed Alistair. His design would probably been pretty perfect. That fit his character nicely. Then very wealthy. He got like a diamond pendant, diamond on his belt. Comes from Diamond Heights. Nice, sleek blonde hair. I didn't show Malachi. Malachi. There you are. Malachi, similarly, he's kind of like between Ignis and Onyx in colors. He's kind of orangish but very dark. A lot bigger. He's slightly larger than all the other ones. And then... I didn't show Saxon. Did I show Saxon? I didn't show Saxon. There's Saxon. There's potions. He's always a little derpy. I was even thinking about making someone like him, like, slightly cross-eyed or something, just as a little bit of a quirk. Very slightly, just like little things that make it different. He's into potions. He's very outgoing, very talkative. That's why he's all just kind of silly looking. Whereas then Trevor's like very kind of timid looking, doesn't talk as much. He's got his books and studying to become enchanter. Pythis with his awesome render. Even though this was an old rig and I was bad at lighting, that's still a cool render. This huge axe. I love Pythis. This is why I'm ashamed that his cool stuff is at the end of season 2. We never got any of his stuff in season 1, other than the brief fight against an Enderknight when we didn't even know who he was. Volcanus with this awesome sword I made, I absolutely love. And I was also going to pull open the I think it's behind the scenes, the full reveal of where is it? I can never find this thing. I always lose it. Is it skins? Nope. Production material. Sorry, I want to find this, but I know I'm always looking for it, and I can never find it. I could do a search, but that never seems like it returns results. Oh, there it is. Here's what the full head height thing was, if you're curious. I had some characters hidden. Got Iron Golem on the left for reference, which would have been about the size of Greg. I wanted Greg to be basically like an Iron Golem almost, maybe a little bit smaller, but he was taller than Naked and Magnemite. Malachi, slightly larger Magnemite. Onyx, average size Magnemite. Igneous, the small Magnemite. Sen, slightly younger Ardoni. Hubris, kind of an average size Ardoni. Thais, older Ardoni. Rhea being just very slightly less than Sen, not by much. Lucan, average human. Nika, Nitsuki, the kind of female Felina. And then Kiyoshi, the male Felinas are actually slightly larger than humans. Grim being a little small boy. Jalkar, another average human, just kind of for reference, seeing how they look together. Green Thing being a little super tiny boy. Abigail, another average human. And then I put Abigail next to Volcanus to see how they look together. To see what that's a Natharan, how big Natharans are compared to humans. Which is why you may have even noticed in that opening fight with the Ender Knight, and Natharan. The Enderite was like human size, whereas Pythus was a big boy. Anywho. So, Borgin talks about what happened and how Igneous kind of gave his life. And Borgin gives them a bunch of their ores and stuff, gives them some penance, basically, for what happened. It's not the right word. Tribute for all the stuff that happened. And how Hassan, the Sidonian guy's like, you tried to attack us. This war's been going on for a long time. The fact that you said you didn't kill one of our places and you're giving us some free ores isn't really going to change anything. And Borgin's like, yeah, maybe not yet. But there's a time coming where Borgin's at the end like, no, this isn't going to bring peace. But it's the start of something. We got to be allies in the wars to come. And this is all leading towards Season 3. Which is why by now you might starting to see, like, this whole story was written as 3 seasons. And that's why it's such a shame that Season 1 was kind of a little more bland than the rest, because it was meant as this big, like, introduction to the whole trilogy, and it really needed all the parts to really make all sense. Season 1 and 2 were all about, like, this whole building up to the Second Great War, which is Season 3. It opens up with this whole, there was a previous Great War, but not anymore, those times are gone. Thalia says those times are coming again, and he was right, by the Season 3, the times come again. But everyone's all, not united. The kingdoms aren't united. Igneous solves that problem. There's a distraction with the necromancers and stuff in there. Lucian, Nika, and even Zarya, Season 3, they kind of solve that problem. There's the prime songs and stuff, and and the Endermites are gone. Everything that's been, like, apart starts coming back together at the end of the season. By the end of Season 2, they're all kind of together again, so when the Great War happens again, they can fight up against the Nether and the Feltars and stuff in Season 3, which is cool. It's cool that all these seasons are building up to that stuff throughout the whole time. But we don't really feel that too much until the end of Season 2. You start really noticing it. Starting to get hungry. But let's get going. We're almost done. Abigail gets back up. She survived, which I didn't think was too weird, although I know some people are going to think that's really weird that she survived. In actual Minecraft, we were looking at Minecraft things, thinking about what things we could use, what things make sense. And in Minecraft, there are the end crystals. And as far as I remember, at least last time I played Minecraft, which would have been like whenever horses were first added to Minecraft, that was the last time I really played like vanilla Minecraft. It was when the horse update came out. Ever since then, when horses were added, I don't think I played like normal Minecraft. I just played kind of mini games and stuff. Anyway, when the horses were added, back then at least, the dragon would fly around, and there'd be these big obsidian towers, and they would, if you hurt the dragon, it would fly by the towers would heal it. Towers would give it its life back. You had to take out the towers before you could kill it. So I thought that made sense that in the end, they would have these like end crystals scattered about on some of these islands and on the towers and stuff. And, if there ever was a battle in the end, if there was a war in the end, the Ender Knights could like retreat back to these end crystals, heal back up. If they weren't quite fully dead, if they were able to get there in time, they could basically, restore themselves. These end crystals were extremely powerful, but they only worked on Ender Knights. So I thought that made sense here, that when Abigail was stabbed, she didn't immediately just die. She was stabbed, but then before she died, the Enderman got her, brought her to the end crystal, and then the crystal was able to heal her. Which also then gave us that cool kind of cliffhanger previously with her being stabbed. Sometimes I like just trying to find ways to make those cool kind of cliffhangers, dramatic moments. Although, I try to make sure it at least makes... Why is there a chicken in the end? Alright, fine, you can stay here. Let me give you like at least a little coop, so you don't go falling off the edge. Hey. Can you get out of that? Yeah, just be extra careful. You probably should have some water too. Let's give him a cauldron. Can you put water in the Give him some water. Now, what else do chickens eat? You just walked right out anyway. Okay, whatever. You deserve to be free. Well, that's cool looking. That's really cool looking, seeing all like the lights. Yeah, I wish we finished this place. It would have looked really cool when we really got all the islands like finished. Anyway, Abigail survives. She comes back out, warp and portal, and as she goes out, she finds Denny, who's here waiting for her with Luna. We learn that Alistair took Thunderdome, heading to Crown Peak to retake the throne. Sax and Trevor going on foot to Crown Peak, because it's actually pretty close. The portal is actually not too far from them. The portal is right here. Crown Peak is literally just like right down the road from where they are. So Trevor and Saxon heading down there, hoping to stop him, or to do some, or at least like help the people in Crown Peak or something. But Thundergrim's obviously going to get there first. And then this is where Abigail really starts having some moments of like, man, everything's just kind of gone wrong. He took the thing, he took the throne, he took the crown. My Endernight's are kind of split up. I already lost one of them. And that was where, again, the scene doesn't work too well because Alistair is such a creep. But it's supposed to be like, Alistair was a likable part of the team, and then he betrayed them and stuff. And there's this big moment of like, man, I lost someone. And I didn't find any, there's no female armor, so I don't have any armor. Everyone else got armor but me. Am I even meant to be like an Endernite or something? Starts kind of wondering if like the thing was a mistake. And then down comes Gallius, which once again, Gallius and his magical birdies that seem to help him get wherever he needs to be for the plot come down, and Gallius walks up, and then he's talking to her, and they kind of learns a little bit about what happened. And there's a really cool scene. I don't know why I was really looking forward to this little moment here, where for me the Endernite stuff was always some of my favorite stuff of the series. Just because I love the Endernite and this aesthetic. I love the Nether aesthetic. I love the orange and kind of the purple clashing, the cool armors, the cool glowing stuff, the dragons, the withers. Their story is the one that interested me some of the most. And there's this really cool bit here where finally it's like, Abigail doesn't have the armor or anything yet. She doesn't quite know what to do. And then Gallius is, she's like, what should I do? And Gallius is like, take back the crown. Throws the little helmet down on the rock. And we'd see like a, whoops, not that. We would see an Ender helmet, basically. We would see Abigail's Ender helmet on the ground, like in front of her, and the camera be slowly zooming in on the music be rising, like, oh, okay, he bought her some armor, and she's gonna, you can kind of tell, like, she knows what's going on, he knows what's going on now. They're gonna take the armor, or she's gonna take the armor, and she's gonna go up against Alistair on Luna. It's this cool kind of moment where you start, like, anticipating that, that bit where she's gonna now take the armor and use it. But that'll be till next episode, because now we're back to Fellora. Episode 8 was a lot of Fellora. There's this little bit at the beginning with Borgin showing what happened after Ignis's death. A bit at the beginning showing how Alistair survived. Why are there chickens everywhere? And then a lot of this episode is honestly in Fellora, because a lot needs to happen. Kiyoshi comes back. They say that they turned the beacon off to protect it from being taken, which is good. That way, if the beacon gets taken, they won't have another star, which is interesting, actually, because it's really hard to get another star, obviously. Very few nether stars, very few portals. The Necromancers obviously don't have a nether star. But Fellora has one nether star, which is in the beacon. So they take it out, they hide it, they lock it away. That way, if the Necromancers take it, they won't be able to take the portal, they won't be able to portal around. However, what you'll realize, though, by the end of the season, even though the Necromancers take it, the nether ends up taking it right from them. The nether has as many nether stars as they need. They've probably got lots. So the nether puts it in, and that's why everything gets screwed over at the end, and that's why the Great War happened so easily. The nether would just kind of invade and take over Ardonia, because they had nether stars of their own, and no one was expecting the nether to suddenly show up and take all these beacons. But anyway, back to the stuff. So Kyoshi's there. We get to see him fighting and defending. We see the Felden officials from Season 1 there. They start going this way, and then boom, they run into the Necrolord. He's like, yo, get out of here, I'll deal with them. So it's Kyoshi alone, facing off against the Necrolord. Where's that little river? I'm trying to find this location. Here it is. No, it's not. Yeah, here it is. Somewhere right around here? I'm lost. I think it was right around here. One of these bridges, and actually it could have been any bridge, but I thought it was one of these. They were going across trying to like evacuate him, and the Necrolord were going to waiting, and then this nice confrontation. Once again, bridges always work nice for confrontations because there's only one way across, and when they're on the other side, you get that nice Necrolord here, Kyoshi on the other. I think the Zarya was here too or something. I don't know where Zarya was. He's more of a Season 3 guy. So then it was Necrolord then Dark Nika against Kyoshi. But then, before Kyoshi can start the fight, we get Necrolucan, who was kind of undercover, breaks out of cover, kills some of the Necromancers, then joins Kyoshi. So then now it's Lucan and Kyoshi against Necrolord and Dark Nika. Nice confrontation, they got one each. So then Kyoshi goes after the Necrolord, and Lucan goes after Dark Nika. So they get their second fight. Necrolord gets to go up again. We finally get the good... We've been looking forward to the Kyoshi versus the Necrolord. People were expecting that at the end of Season 1, but we held it till now. Kyoshi's finally going up against the Necrolord in this season. And then... What else happens here? Oh yeah, Kyoshi's like insulting them. And then... Beep not boop. I'm just seeing what some of the dialogues of Necrolord's kind of teasing him as well. And talking about how he's gonna win, whatever. Stuff happens, they fight. It would have been a really cool fight going on somewhere around here where I needed to work it up a little bit, but there's gonna be like there's 2 bridges. And they would have been fighting on each bridge. There would have been like Kyoshi and Necromancer, or Necrolord, Nika and Lucan. They've been fighting on these 2 bridges. So the camera would be like seeing them going down to these, watching these, coming back up, and they're still fighting really, really cool fights. There are so many awesome fights in Season 2 I was looking forward to. And I know Zillion would have made awesome fights. And I'm so sad that those are never going to happen now because, man, like, when I think of Season 1, the fight at the beginning was very visually cool with Thales and Tyron. But story-wise, we didn't know them yet. We really didn't know much about them. They were very new. It was just kind of a cool introduction. Episode 6 was the big one. That's the one I remember some of the most because we got to know Thales a lot by then. We got to have time in Sandaria. Seeing Tyron show back up and burning the Sandaria, fighting him in the thing. That's probably the fight that makes like my hair stand on end the most just because it's a dramatic one. Then there's one more fight at the end basically with the big one, Mount Velgrin, all the Ardoni fighting against all the other ones, which is visually cool, but we still like don't know much about those Ardoni. Then we go through the portal, big dramatic fight between Tidesinger and Tidesinger, but once again we only just kind of been introduced to them now, which is visually cool again. A lot of other good fights throughout the series, a lot of good ones. I like the Jalkar and Grim vs. Voltaris, a lot of these are good fights, but memorably there's only like 2 really major like dramatic fights I think of. Whereas Season 3, look how many... Okay, sorry. I'm going on a long tangent about how much I'm lamenting the loss of all these cool Season 2 moments, which probably isn't what you want to hear, so I'll just keep going. So they were fighting, and there's a nice little callback to the Season 1 thing where she's like, don't you ever throw me in the water again. Because then Lucan's like, remember when, no, he's saying here, like, listen, Nika, something I wanted to tell you, I should have told you before. And Nika slows down, starts listening, and the audience might start thinking like, "Oh, is he gonna like confess? Is he gonna confess that he loves her or something?" And then he's like, "You really need to learn how to swim." Just throws her off the edge, throws her into the water, which is why the water was down here. So he throws her off. They fall down in the water, splash down. The idea was that the water was kind of the curative thing for the necromancer stuff, which was a pretty simple solution, but we needed some kind of simple solution for simple problems. Throws down the water. She comes out of the water now. She's kind of back to normal. So they kind of swim after the shore, and he's glad to have her back. Meanwhile, Kyoshi and Necrolord are still fighting, and Kyoshi starts actually winning a little bit. Oh, I didn't show the Necrolord. That's another character I didn't show off. Let's see. Which was basically the Dreadlord, just... I thought the solid black looked nice. Here's the Necrolord, was another really cool character. He had that really cool kind of axe halberd looking thing. It's more of an axe, but kind of a peculiar one. Very cool design. I love the kind of the dark necromancer, or the dark Dreadlord look was really cool. So he's fighting, and then they would have been fighting. Where was it? Right up here. They were fighting. Kyoshi starts kind of winning. And then Necrolord, about to start losing, realizes he has to kind of reveal his secret that he was in holding. He then suddenly, in the middle of a fight, uses his song, throws Kyoshi back and hits him with a song. Then Kyoshi suddenly gets thrown down, not expecting that at all. First time, like, for a moment that Kyoshi really takes a loss. Necrolord gains the upper hand again. Kyoshi staggering back up, looks up at Necrolord, now understanding these kind of red glowing eyes, and he's like, oh, you're an Ardoni. and we learn Necrolord's true identity, Zon Voltaris, and he takes his mask off, pulls the hood back, and like reveals that he was a Voltaris, which I thought was kind of interesting because it's not just, oh, of course he was Voltaris, everything's Voltaris, they're all working for Voltaris. He was a Voltaris, but he distanced himself from the Voltaris. He left the Voltaris. The Voltaris might have been villains, but they weren't going to like do necromancy and take over the world and work with the undead. That wasn't their own thing. This was like one Voltaris who, at the end of the Great War, after they had kind of lost, he realized that these undead could be controlled. They were a powerful army. He separated himself from the rest of them, and kind of went to try to learn how to learn the power, basically. So he was a separate one. But I do like how that ties in the whole, like, all these different plot lines that seem kind of separate are kind of all connected. Even this Felden one that seemed pretty distant was still like, this whole Felden arc was a result of the Voltaris in the Great War in the past. And this Voltaris guy was, trying to learn to lead these zombies. And then Kyoshi, weak after getting a song to the face, basically staggers back up, and he's like, "And I spent my entire life to defend Felden, and I still stand against you," kind of. So then Kyoshi gets his weapon ready, and the Necrolord goes into a fight with him one more time. So now, with the hood back, not needing to hold back anymore, Necrolord with his, now revealed as the Ardoni Zon Voltaris, is using the songs, using his axe, going up against Kyoshi. Kyoshi starts losing now that he's just kind of going full force against him. Kyoshi has to switch at one point. I think his halberd breaks or he loses it or something. So he loses his weapon. He pulls out his backup sword. He's now using his backup sword, and then even that gets beaten. And he gets kind of thrown down, and then he's very badly wounded. He's basically almost dead. And then Necrolord walks up behind him and is like, "Look out there. You have failed. You're no longer standing." And Felden has fallen, takes Kyoshi's sword, stabs it through his back as Kyoshi's just kind of kneeling here. So Kyoshi has this horribly tragic, but tragically poetic final death here. He would have been sitting here and you would have just seen the sword through his back as the Necrolord walks away, and then he's still kneeling here with the sword through him, and you would have seen everything being destroyed and all the place burning, and then the Necromancer's taken over, and then slowly he would have just kind of fell over dead. And so his final thoughts, his final moment was seeing everything he'd been trying to defend fall in front of him, and he died. Poor Kyoshi. He tried. And he did good while he could. He slowed him down, but it would be up to Lucan and Nika to retake Felden in Season 3. Poor Kyoshi. I always feel bad for Kyoshi. Anyway, enough lamenting Kyoshi. So then we get a little bit down below where, where's that little open field area? Here it is. No, it's not. Here it is. Yes, it is. There we go. Down this little field area, big open space, and kind of a lumber yard they could use. There's a bit where they're kind of rounding up the survivors. The Necromancers and the Necrolords are kind of using the zombies to kind of control their survivors. Lucan and Nika get captured as well. Then the Felden officers get killed, which have been kind of not too big of a deal because they weren't too significant, but still voiced characters from Season 1. Necromancer, or Necrolord, uses the zombies to kill them, which is kind of gruesome. And then Lucan and Nika start thinking, "Oh man, we're going to be next," because especially the Necromancer's like, "Yeah, we don't need you anymore. My army is large enough as is." Then, yeah, he's about to send. So that's a cool moment where then he. Nika and I almost said Nika and Lucan. Nika and Lucan get to hold hands, so the Shippy fan art people could draw Shippy fan art. No, that's not why we did it, but they get their first little kind of sad moment together. We almost start feeling like, oh, it's going to be the end. Are they going to die? Then the Necrolord raises his staff, points towards them, just like he did with the Felden official people. So you think, oh, the zombies are going to swarm them and kill them. It's the end. But then the zombies don't move. The kind of music fades out. They open their eyes, and the zombies still holding the staff. The zombies haven't moved. And they're like, huh? Then all the zombies would have been facing in this one direction. They're all facing that way. And everywhere they were kind of looking around. The Necrolord's looking at where they're looking. We turn around, and you have to imagine the place would have been a little more A lot of the trees have been kind of destroyed and burned, so there've been a lot more light. But there would have been this really nice shot. They would have looked on the hill. Pythis would have been standing here. The Angel of Death would have kind of like flown up and landed. A Wither would be kind of floating over. There's some Wither skeletons. The Nether has now arrived in the overworld. Big dramatic moment, and a nice light shining behind them. Boom. Boom. Cliffhanger. I think the script even says boom. Boom. Oh, I took them all out. The script used to always say boom. To be continued. But I think at one point I deleted them all because someone thought it was unprofessional. It's like, fine, took them out. Anyway, I always love that cliffhanger because now, finally, now the Nether's here. This is all the stuff I was so excited for. This is all the stuff that I was like, yeah, Songs of War is such an awesome series. It's got so much cool stuff. It's like, now we're finally there at the end of Season 2. There's been great stuff. There's been lots of cool moments. But this is the stuff I was really looking forward to. With Nether showing up. The Ender Knights with their dragons and their obsidian armor. The reveals of all these things. The Tide Singer's back. He's going. Anyway, so yeah. Once again, all the awesome stuff. You know. Shame. Anyway, Season 2, Episode 9. This one was the one that, for me, was probably tied for my favorite episode. I thought this episode was pretty much perfect from start to finish. Just as far as just drama, excitement. It's tied with Season 3, Episode 5 was another one I liked a lot. I don't know which of those I liked better. I really like this one, though. So right from the beginning, really dramatic, opening up where the last one left off. Very tense, like, music and intense drama. We get, like, the Nether music, that kind of cool, like... They have a very unique vibe that I was really excited for. We got a little bit of it in the prologue, very briefly, but finally more chance to hear those kind of just like synths and bass synths. Pythis walks down the hill, walks towards Necrolord, starts talking to him. He's like, you've done a great job pretending to be king of the undead. And this is where we kind of learn the real truth. Like, the Necrolord, not real truth, but we learn the whole... Not even learn, we already kind of knew, but we see here that the Necrolord, he was controlling the undead, but he was only just kind of controlling them and stuff. He's not really leading them, and what is it they call you, the Necrolord? And then Pythis is like, these... Oh, well, actually, I guess he says it later, but he's now saying, like, I'm coming here, I'm taking over the overworld. Thanks for being a distraction, basically. Thanks for getting my work started. And that was the thing that just kind of happened, like... These necromancers, they weren't working for the Voltars, they weren't working for the Nether, but it so happened, unfortunately, that their stuff here really like paved the way for the Nether to kind of take over quickly, because they were all busy fighting the necromancers, didn't realize the Nether had been coming through portals nearby and advancing, so they come through. And I think Deathsinger mentioned that. Deathsinger mentioned to the Pythis, like, yeah, they're kind of distracted right now. This is a good chance. So then Pythis is like, yeah, thanks for the distraction and stuff, which is cool that this all happens now, nice dramatic. And the Necromancer's like, oh, but I had plans, I had plans, Kenobi. I always imagine the Necromancer, or the Necrolord, kind of like Maul as well. I imagine everyone like Maul. Deathsinger is based off Maul as well a lot. Then Pythis is like, Necrolord's like, there's no more alliance, I've been planning this for years and stuff, and Pythis like, oh, the alliance has been reformed. But first, you guys need to be taken out. Pythis draws its huge axe. Necrolord takes out his as well. Boom. And they fight. Nice, intense fight here. Another fight I was really looking forward to. I love fights with villain on villain. When you get two villains, neither of which are good guys, but you're still like, whichever way it turns is going to be interesting and will still affect the story. And you get Pythis with his axe, Necrolord versus his, both. And it'll be cool because now the Necrolord will be using songs against Pythis, non-song wielder. But still, Pythis beats him, which really shows how the Netharans were powerful, and that was stuff that, in Pythis' final lines, mentions about the whole idea of power, and, like, how these songs of war were always seen as, like, these great powers, and the Prime songs were the great powers, but really, power is just kind of it's not an illusion, but power is just this idea of what's powerful and stuff, and by saying something strong, you make it seem stronger than it might be. So Pythis ends up beating Necrolord. Some people said the fight was kind of fast, but it only seems fast because it's written down as like one sentence in the script. That would have been a very impressive fight. I would have been really looking forward to that one. Beats them, and just like that, at the end of the last episode, you're all wondering, like, oh, the necromancers are taking over. What's going to happen? But then the necromancers just get wiped out of the picture. It's like a Red Wedding style, but for one of the villain groups, this whole faction just gets taken out by Pythos single-handedly by killing the Necro Lord, and by being near the Nether with the Withers. The Withers are the ones that control the undead. I don't know if I explained that before as well. The Withers have the glowing white eyes. The Wither staff has the glowing white eyes. The Wither staff was a kind of dead, Wither skull spine thing. But now that there's a real Wither here, it's able to control the undead. So anyway, he kills the doesn't quite kill Necro Lord, and then he has the thing he says here, where it's like, the undead, they're not, you don't really control them. They're their own kind of mindless species, but you can guide them or whatever. The one truth that he never quite got, and then he guides them, and then all the zombies kill the Necro Lord, which is a nice, fitting, poetic way for him to end. Spent his life trying to train these things and use them as an army. Ends up dying by him. I'm gonna take a slight break. Been 3 hours 20 minutes. I'm gonna take a very slight break. I'm gonna come right back. We're gonna come back to Luke and Nikadu escape in the confusion, but then we get the big Crown Peak Ben. Looking forward to that. I'm gonna take a quick stretch break. It's been a really long time to grab a snack or something, grab some water, and I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. I had a short little break, very short little one, and I'm going to do a very quick little sync test again just to make sure that my footage can be synced up. So I'm going to do left, right, jump, down, up. Okay, synced up. Where would we leave off? So back to Crown Peak. Alistair arrives. We see like him kind of burning the city a bit, not like completely destructively, but enough to like mainly destroying things like just burning the walls and burning certain things, like not trying to kill them, but just to really show that the Ender Knight's back, Ender Knight's in power, fear me kind of thing. Yeah, so then that happens. That's what Thunderdome does. That's how his flames come out. So he's burning. God, excuse me. All I did was go drink some water. Nighttime again. Go nighttime to set the mood. Yeah, he comes around here and he lands here, walks up to the throne. He does kill, I think, some guards. Comes to the throne or something, talks to some of the people here, and it's like, send word to all these different kingdom places or whatever. Bring them to me. I need to let them know that I'm in charge now. Because then he sits down on the throne. Big dramatic moment. Oh snap! Alistair took the throne, or something. And then it cuts forward to a little bit later at the same place though. Then the different like kind of it was ambassadors, so it was people who were like at like the place here in Crown Peak who represented some of the other kingdoms. They show up and he's trying to get them to all kneel before him and stuff. Thunderdome's here, and once again this is where some of this stuff got confusing, because in the very early versions of the story, Thunderdome was just straight up a villain like Alistair, but then we kind of changed Thunderdome to half villain because we knew we were going to need him for Denny, and we didn't want to make him so dislikable that no one would ever want to like have him in the story. But then we didn't quite fix it, so I did get some of that back in here, I think. Alistair's like telling Thunderdome to kill them, but then Thunderdome starts looking back, and that was where Alistair was about to go kill him, but then he notices, then Thunderdome senses something. Then they hear the dragon roar. Another scene I was really looking forward to. This is why this episode was so good. The episode opens with Pythos versus Necrolord, the extinction of the Necromancer faction and the elimination of them in Nether coming in. Then we get followed by Alistair being the first person to start using these thrones. I told you these thrones are going to be significant by the end. Like, Sen kind of looked at it a little bit here when he passed by. But now it's like, look how far they came from like Sen just being like, oh look, what's that? Oh, it's the throne. The internet used to season 2 now, like the dragon, like a character you've been working with who would have been written to be more interesting, betrayed them, comes to the city, takes the throne and is threatening them, and he's using his dragon to install new order while the Nether's on the right. There's so much cool stuff in season 2 with Rage. Anyway, okay, I don't know what that sound was. So then he comes out here and he's like, oh, what's that? And they heard a roar, so they kind of out here and they look up and then they see dun, 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 dun. Anyway, it would have been Luna and Abigail up on the peak, on Crown Peak, which would have been this really cool shot of them here. Abigail's on the back riding, and she's in the Ender Knight armor the first time we see her wearing the armor. Then she like holds up her sword, and the wings of of Luna go out. Lightning strikes. It's been a stormy, dark nighttime setting. Lightning strikes behind. Then Thunderdome rides on Alistair, and they start flying away and they start flying up in the air. And then Luna and Abigail, and like, I'm ready for the fight. I'm ready to stop you. Jumps off, starts flying towards them. Dragon battle. So you get a cool dragon battle between them both. They're trying to fight each other. It's kind of hard for the riders to do much, but the dragons attack each other, and the riders are doing a little bit. So I think Abigail shoots a few bow shots at them at one point. At one point, though, finally, after a little bit of fighting and stuff in the air, Abigail does this cool thing where she like jumps off, lands on Alistair, lands next to Alistair on Thunderdome, and then knocks Alistair straight off Thunderdome, and then hops off herself, and then Luna catches her. So then Alistair gets thrown off, lands. There's to be somewhere outside the city limits area, like out here or something. So then he lands, really injured now, falling pretty far. Luckily, the Ender Knight armor can help solve whatever problem you need. That's in the advertisement. The Ender Knight armor can solve any problem you need. Alistair falls down, and then Luna lands with Abigail, and then Thunderdome's about to try to land to pick Alistair up again, but then Luna like holds the ground, roars to keep Thunderdome away. Thunderdome starts realizing that Alistair is going to die, but also realizing that Thunderdome and Alistair are starting to have this disconnect, because Thunderdome was just being ordered to kill these people, and he was kind of not wanting to do that. So then that's a bit where Thunderdome starts feeling some weird confliction and ends up flying off and escapes. Not really escapes, just flies away and leaves Alistair, and kind of leaves Alistair for dead, which is a little bit of betrayal on Thunderdome's part, but also, Alistair kind of deserved it, and Thunderdome didn't want to protect him anymore, but also felt bad about leaving, so he just kind of left. Then you get a nice bit where Abigail and Alistair confront each other, and he's like, yeah, I might still not kill you, but she will. And then finally Luna gets to use her flames, burns Alistair to death. Yeah, that's right, take that, you piece of crap. So, down goes Alistair, hooray. I also realized I didn't show his weapon. He has a cool weapon as well. Where was his weapon? He had a nice, I think it was that one? No. Was it that one? I remember Alistair's weapon being pretty cool. I think it might have been that one. Yeah, because I think I remember using it for one of the Ender Knights because I was getting lazy. I think that was Alistair's sword. Wasn't that one? This was Denny's. The dent in it. No, because that was... No, wait, his was diamond. I'm stupid. There's Alistair's. Okay, I didn't think so. Okay, this is the one Abigail gets for Season 3. This is when she makes a new sword? No, this is... Sorry. This is Abigail's sword. That she had a stone sword that she'd been using. Then she goes to the blacksmith and goes to Gallius in the beginning of Season 2. Gallius says, like, oh, you probably need a better weapon to replace that stone sword of yours. Gives Abigail a weapon from his armory. Gives her this cool-looking iron one that looks cool. Which, in my opinion, I always thought might have been one of the ones Sen could have made, because Sen had been working at Gallius' blacksmith. So I thought maybe if Sen made it, that would have been kind of a nice connection between all the different story arcs. Sen made that sword at Gallius' blacksmith, who then gives it to Abigail. So that was Abigail's one that she had through most of the series. She had this throughout basically all Season 2. She had it for the first half of Season 3, her big, cool iron sword. But then that's the one that gets broken in half by Vulcanus. Vulcanus' even cooler iron sword. Vulcanus breaks that sword in half. Then she gets another one that she has temporarily before getting the Underblade a little bit later. This was Alistair's sword, is right, so the diamond one, nice fancy diamond one. Sword of Infinity, just more of an Easter egg, doesn't actually get used. Just seeing if there's any other weapons I skipped. Those are most of the main ones. There's a big row here that, then Sen's weapon would have been the, in Season 1 you could see he had this stone sword he had made, and the idea was at Araxia he would have remade a nicer version of the same design he liked at Araxia, and that was the one he takes with him. This becomes Sen's sword up until Season 3 where he kills Tiger and then gets Thais' sword back, which is interesting. Anywho. Where was I? Oh, right, the script. So, yes, Abigail kills him. Meanwhile, then right at the same time, the Knights of Ardonia are now arriving at Crown Peak. You know, they were coming here because Sen said he knows about the Mobilian Prime Song here. So right now they're kind of torn between leave the Prime Songs hidden and safe because that was where Thais put them, or go try to find them and take them in first and keep them even safer before the Voltars can figure out where they are and take them. So right now they're going to take him. And I crashed again. Too bad my length is wider than 21 bits. That's what you can tell a fat person politely. Yeah, I think your length is a little wider than 21 bits. And then they'll be like, huh? And you go, you're fat. And then they slap you. And then beat you up. And take your money. No, I'm just kidding, I don't know where I'm going right now. I'm waiting for the chunks to load back in. Come on, chunks! Load slow with shaders. Anyway, Knights of Ardonia show back up. And then they see like the kind of purple flames on the city and stuff from the distance. They see like the smoke rising, like what's going on? And then Alistair's like, dragons. Or not Alistair. Tidesinger. I don't know why I said Al. Tidesinger's like, dragons. So this is supposed to then kind of rewind. It would have actually rewound it a little bit. You would have maybe even seen the dragons kind of like, as he said that, you would have seen like one of the dragons flying or something. So we go back a little bit. So these were all kind of happening simultaneously a bit. Them arriving, they were actually arriving, sneaking through the city as the dragon fight was going on. So then fix it up to speed. They show up to Solomon's house, open the door, they knock on the door, he's not there. So they kind of bust in, he's here with a crossbow. Thought a crossbow was a nice fitting weapon for him. Seems like a kind of coward's weapon. Not even like a normal bow that you kind of manually fire. And as everyone expected, which was fine, honestly, I wasn't really making it supposed to be a big of a surprise, but obviously Solomon did eventually betray them. But it was still, I think, a really cool moment, because even still, we're still thinking like, oh, okay, oh, I crashed again. We're thinking like, oh, what's going to happen? Is he going to get it back? He's going to get the song back from we're thinking, and then he goes in there, and we don't know he's betrayed him just yet. Oh God, why is that crashing so much? He also does mention while they're going there, Sen Ever the Questionnaire asks Tidesinger about the Underknights, and then he talks about how the Underknights used to be, rulers, and maybe they might be doing it again, so you got to be kind of cautious. So they hurry there in the Crown Wood, which is the Hollywood basically, but for Crown Peak. So then they're like, oh, you got to get this song. Well, you're too late for that. Pause. And then you hear Deathsinger's voice. I have already found the Prime Song. Oh, snap. Deathsinger steps into the room out from the shadows and walks over. This is why this episode is probably like one of my favorites. You get this nice Deathsinger steps in. They got betrayed. Nice dramatic moment, kind of. He's in the room. He just came here a moment ago for the Prime Song because Solomon sold him out. Then Deathsinger and Solomon kind of mainly Deathsinger stands up against Tidesinger and Sen, and Sen's like, oh man. And Tidesinger's like, oh man. And then they get these nice confrontation back and forth. Deathsinger now finally realizing Killian did follow him here because he thought he had gotten rid of him. But Solomon's all like on the whole Second Great War is coming, and he's all on like if I just join him, he'll take a place of importance, he's gonna help him, so then he can not get killed off by him, basically, is his reasoning. And Deathsinger, reasonably is like, they're safe with me, which by the end of the series you'll see is kind of true. He wanted to keep the Prime Song safe as well. But then Tidesinger goes up against him, and this was also going to be expanded on a little bit. This whole fight was going to be a little bit more than what it ended up being in the script. There's going to be a little moment where once again we see Deathsinger about to use his shotgun thing, but then Sen steps in the way and uses his shield to kind of defend it. But going up against Deathsinger, his song against Deathsinger's song, he gets completely wrecked, so even his shield like breaks and he gets knocked back. Then they would have completely gotten like shot out the window, and they were going to get broken out the window onto the deck, which would have been really dramatic. I would have had to kind of remake some of this area, so they would have had some room or something. But they get thrown out on the deck. They've had a little bit of a fight here against Deathsinger on the balcony, with Crown Peak kind of somewhat on fire below with purple flames. Maybe the dragon battle would have still been going on. You would have seen like some of the stuff you saw earlier, the dragons fighting, burning as you're fighting. But Sen gets kind of beaten back, thrown down. Tidesinger's getting beaten back, thrown down. The house is starting to burn behind him. There's this really nice shot of Deathsinger stepping out of like through the burning doorway, and the Solomon's house kind of burning a little bit, not like completely on fire, but just a bit of flames. Walks out, and the house is burning, and Deathsinger talks to them. Tidesinger and Sen are here, about to lose, and then they're all like, "Yo," Tidesinger's like, where was it? Yeah, Deathsinger's like, "No, it's you who doesn't have the allies and stuff. Where are the Ender Kings? Where are the Ender Kings? Where are the Ender Knights? Are the kingdoms still united? When was the last time the Ardoni were using these songs?" Which is what I was saying earlier about this whole story was basically about that stuff happening. And so at the moment, Deathsinger's right. The Voltaris and the Nether are winning. The Ardoni, or the Tidesinger, doesn't really have any of this stuff. But where's the Ender King? She's about to show up. It's the new Ender Queen. Are the kingdoms united? No, that's what Igneous went and did. When were the Ardoni using the Songs of War? That's what, Rhea's been trying to do, get the new group of Ardoni kind of ready to fight and stuff. So it is happening, it ends up happening just slightly too late. But then that's become Season 3. Deathsinger's gone, we made the alliance. Tidesinger will still stand up against him, and then once again Deathsinger's like, I don't wish to kill you. Which is kind of the stuff you understand more by Season 3. So we get a little bit in Season 2 teased about the whole Deathsinger-Tidesinger dynamic. But then Abigail flies up, uses the flames. Deathsinger has to force to retreat. As Luna does the fire against him, Deathsinger backs up. Luna grabs Tidesinger and Sen in the feet and flies off. Then Deathsinger's like, "Fly back to Pythos, begin the invasion." Angel of Death, who had kind of shown up there, kind of the messenger in a way at this moment, then flies up, flies up in the sky, flies into the camera, cuts to black. Boom, another big cliffhanger, finale time. Although that was actually the big finale, honestly. Episode 9 was the bigger of the ones. 10 actually is a little bit of a calmer one compared to 9. Anyway, Tidesinger meets Abigail. They all kind of unite. Finally, now the stories are together. After all this time, now the Ender Knights have joined with the Knights of Ardonia into like a super faction. Knights of Ardonia and the Ender Knights are together. Basically, the Ender Knights are part of the Knights of Ardonia. They're kind of all connected. The Felden stuff's still a little bit separate off to the side. We wanted to keep that story a little more separate, so it wasn't all like part of this big thing. We wanted to have a story that had a little more of its own place, its own kind of beginning, middle, end stuff. They unite. They said we're going to head back to Ataraxia. Let's regroup in Ataraxia. It's the safest place, or whatever. Then Lucan and Nika, Lucan and Nika are escaping Felden, and as they're doing so, they're like, "Oh man, look what's going on right now." Even though they may have survived, they realize. There we go. As they're like kind of leaving Flora, they realize, man, this is all over. The Nether here now. We just lost. We were almost about to protect Felden, and then we almost lost the Necromancers. Then we lost it anyway to the Nether. This is bad. But then, for once, we finally see Lucan be the one who's really now wanting to stand up and fight like for Felden and stuff. Previously in Season 1, he's like, "I'm not a hero, I'm not a warrior. I don't care about all this stuff. I just want to get by. Right now I need to do this Necromancers." Now by the end of Season 2, we see Nika's kind of the one who's almost like, "Oh, how can we possibly do this? What are we going to do?" And then Lucan's the one like, "Hey, we got this." And then as they're like, "Okay, let's do that." Then they start seeing the withers flying overhead. They take cover. Then multiple withers are flying by, and they start realizing the invasion begins. This is where, in the script-wise, Episode 10 seemed pretty flat, but that's because this whole bit that was written here would have been pretty epic and dramatic. But it's just a few lines here, without the music and the visuals. Basically, the very music-driven scene of the invasion of the overworld. We would have seen all these different places we were familiar with throughout the series, like being taken. But the first thing that happens, we would have seen the Nether show up here. The Nether, they got their own Nether Star, so even though the Nether Star had been taken out, they put a new one in, start beaconing between the cities. We start seeing all the different main capital cities overrun, like one by one. They're coming through, all the Nether are just warping around, taking the cities, big invasion, very epic. A cool little side note about beacons, just I thought I'd mention while I'm on the topic. I think I do briefly explain the script in Season 3, but one of the... beacons are fast traveling, but one of the side effects of the beacons, I thought, for Songs of War would be that the beacons prevent nether portals from being open nearby. So by having a beacon up, you can prevent like the nether from attacking you closely. But, you know, take the beacon down, you can open another portal close. Or if you go through the beacons, you can still go, just use the beacons as travel. So it's kind of like a... It protects against nether portals, but also allows them to use it. So it's kind of just... catch-22, I don't know if that's the right term here, but... bit of a problem. So anyway, they use the beacons to take over. And then here we had we're kind of starting to tease this Pythus and Deathsinger maybe working together, but they're definitely not really allies. They're definitely not friends. There's a bit where now, after the invasions kind of happen and they're all winning, you know, Alistair sat on the throne for about a few moments, but his was very short-lived. Now it's Pythus' turn to take the overworld, but as he's about to walk up here, he sees Deathsinger like blocking the way, and Deathsinger standing there, where they're kind of obstructing him, Tygan probably nearby, and then, you know, Pythus like, move aside, throne's mine, and then Deathsinger's like, just don't forget about like who put you here, kind of. But he's also doing a little more respect for like, I only has the honor in mind and stuff. But then he starts seeing Pythus as like, yeah, you're right. However, there's a lot of problems. I'm going to need your help more before I can help you with stuff. So you can see there's this kind of tension between them, and they're kind of not double-crossing each other, but they're going to be having difficulties. So that kind of begins. Knights of Ardonia are all back in Ataraxia. This is why we had to remake Ataraxia later and kind of clear out this little space. My like throat muscles starting to hurt for talking for 4 hours straight. I hope I don't get a really bad sore throat after this thing. So yeah, they're all gathered around here. Nice big circle. Galleys comes out and speaks to all of them here. Enough room for like Luna to kind of land on the side. They're talking about how they all need to go recruiting, get everyone ready. Galleys finally reveals, you know, we're all Knights of Ardonia. This Second Great War has kind of finally begun. I think he said it more epically here. The Second Great War has finally begun, yeah. And Tidesinger's like, oh, we're going to do all these things, but first I have an ally who may be able to join us. I'm not sure if he'll join. So then we're getting near the end of the season, like, you know, the invasion had happened, everything was lost, but this small group of Knights of Ardonia here at Ataraxia is now still standing up against it. Lucan and Nico back in Felden, they're going to have their own like rebellion against the Nether there. The Knights of Ardonia and the Knights, they all set out. Nice kind of music moment as they head out. We get to see a bit of a montage of stuff kind of around the rest of the world. Basically a nice big summary of the season again, seeing where everyone is. We see that the Magnarites have survived in Carthan. Carthan, that was a nice little thing. Carthan, being kicked out of the Union, had their beacon turned off. So when the Nether came around and took Felora and then used the beacons to get to the other capital cities, they didn't get to Carthan, and Carthan's very well defended. There's no Nether portals in Carthan, so they never took Carthan. The Magnarites are making weapons and stuff in there. Borgin's over there, like, overseeing, and this is what Borgin's talking about with, like, the wars to come. The Angel of Death flies, like, over some of the cities. So we see that all this happened. Then we get to... what's it called? Another portal? Yeah. This is actually a cool set. I don't think we would have even really seen this set too much. There's a really, really cool Nether portal here. And this was the idea. This was like the first Nether portal that the Nether first used to take the overworld many, many, many years ago and stuff. But if you go all the way up, it was like a thing that would be kind of vacant. They don't really use it anymore because it's now like it's kind of abandoned. But now that the Nether are invading again, they might be using it again. Anyway, the protagonists are working their way up here. Conveniently, a nice little path they can kind of follow. Now, as they're walking up, they would have seen like Thunderdome circling around above. The idea that Thunderdome's kind of following them, unsure what to do with now, if it should rejoin the Ender Knights or whatnot. They're getting a little skeptical. They come up here. There's a scene where Thunderdome finally kind of confronts them. This is where it's kind of... I saw a few comments about this bit, which I think was again a result of the fact that this whole arc needed a major rewrite. But the idea behind some of this was like, I guess this would have changed a lot depending on how he wrote it. But in this version, Thunderdome just went and like destroyed half a city, killed probably a bunch of innocent people in the city, and now he's here like just wanting to be like, oh, I'll join you and stuff. So they're kind of torn between, you know, do we let him live, or he was technically a villain. Some of this dates back to when it was initially written. Thunderdome was a villain, straight up. He was a complete villain. He was on Alistair's side. He betrayed them, was alongside Alistair. He helped Alistair kill people in Crown Peak. So we had the scene here. Probably would have been rewritten and taken out a bit. But basically the idea was everyone was unsure whether or not to trust Thunderdome. But the main takeaway is that no one trusts Thunderdome except Denny. And Denny kind of saw this, like, kind of similarity with Thunderdome. Like, you know, Thunderdome's didn't ask to be raised by Alistair. It just happened. And that's kind of how, you know, he didn't ask to be an Under Knight. Just that's the way it was. And he decided he'll take him and he'll train him and stuff. So then that's where Denny gets Thunderdome. Nice that got a second dragon. Got both dragons now on the side. They come up here. Tidesinger puts down whatever the beacon thing was, trying to call upon his thing. And at the moment, the viewer still doesn't know like what this is. And oddly enough, it's like the very end of the season. We're at the end of season 2, but we seem to be kind of past all like the big dramatic stuff. Season 1 ended with this huge battle and a fight on the mountain. Here, we've already kind of finished the battle stuff. Was episode 9. The invasion was earlier in this episode. So we're getting very close to the end of the episode, or this end of the season, and they're just kind of on this mountain. Like, that's kind of weird. Like, doesn't, you know, what's going to happen if it's just a mountain? They try to call on him. The ally doesn't answer. The ally doesn't show up. So then they kind of wait. And they wait into night. And night comes. Sen and Rhea kind of talk a little bit. They're still trying to like kind of catch up a little bit on some of the time. Still buddies. Then later night, everyone's kind of sleeping, still nothing's going on. Rhea goes up to kind of find out, or Rhea goes up kind of impatient because the beacon's not working. She goes, like earlier, the Tidesinger would have been like kind of holding the beacon up, kind of wasn't working, or some kind of beacon. It wouldn't have been a beacon, would have been something a little different. Basically, kind of like the Herobrine shrines that were from the Herobrine mythos, but not that, otherwise people would have realized it. But then when Rhea holds it up, boom, they get struck by lightning. A bunch of lightning starts coming down. This huge, like, crazy lightning storm converges on the mountain all at once. Kind of blows the explosion. Rhea flies back. This big cloud of smoke and snow puffs up. This big snowy kind of blizzard appears when lightning stops. And then Sen goes to check on Rhea, like, oh, Rhea, you okay? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. What was that? And then they kind of look, there's still bits of kind of lightning and stuff. You would have seen this kind of like shadowy figure kneeling here suddenly. The bright light coming from behind him, the kind of electricity around him. You don't see who it is, but you start recognizing his sword. If you're an Animation Life fan, you start recognizing his sword was Herobrine's sword from Animation Life. He opens his eyes, and his eyes are glowing white. 2 glowing eyes open. Dark to be continued in season 3. And that's the end of season 2. Which, I'm actually curious how people have thought about that. Some people have probably facepalmed, honestly, because it's like, oh, Herobrine, really? Whereas I thought that was kind of what people would have expected and people would have wanted. That was what was kind of planned from the beginning. I did Animation Life, and I said I wanted to like use these villains in Songs of War. They were cool villains, and I wanted to make them kind of used. And while I said, yeah, we wanted Herobrine to go back to being kind of like a legend, I never said, like, it doesn't mean he doesn't appear. We did see him in episode 1. We did mention he, you know, some even say he was there. He may have even fought in the Great War. So I thought it was cool that I wanted to give him that feeling of being a legend, being this mystery. That way when he shows up, it's a big deal again. It's not just, imagine if Herobrine had been here from the beginning. Oh, it's Herobrine. Herobrine's here. But instead you get to save it, and then he comes in at the end of season 2. Pretty much every viewer would know who he is. It cuts to black, cuts to season, you gotta wait for season 3. That was the cliffhanger I was probably looking forward to the most, the whole series, just to see all the like, oh, what? Herobrine? Which is cool. So, Herobrine's there, season 2 ends, big boom, big cliffhanger. Yeah. That's that. That's the end. Season 3's next. So hope you enjoyed that little read-through. Not little at all. 4 hours long. I've been talking nonstop. I haven't had lunch. I'm getting hungry. Hope you enjoyed, though. Hope this shed a little more light. Hope you got to see some of the locations and maybe get to imagine it a little bit. You can see why I was saying like how much, in my opinion, season 2 was so much better. all the cool stuff that happens, all the great moments with the characters, all the writing, all the builds. We get to see all the sets, all the swords. Once again, yes, I did want these seasons to happen. Like I said in the cancellation video, and I'm not going to go into further beating a dead horse about it, but it wasn't just about like views. I know people right now are like, oh, it's a shame cancel. We'll give it more views so we can bring it back. But it wasn't just about the views. Like I mentioned in the video, a lot of it was, as much as I was enjoying this and it was cool, I wanted to move on anyway. Even if the views were here, I still want to move on. It's not like suddenly watching Songs of War a bunch of the whole times isn't going to make me suddenly make these seasons. There's just an incredible amount of work that went into making this happen. It's basically like an animated film. It's like an animated series. But we're doing it with just a few animators as hobbyists, doing it for YouTube that makes a little money. It just didn't make sense. So anyway, I'm not going to end on that too much, but yeah. So hope you enjoyed the Season 2 read. I'm guessing this is going to actually hurt my throat. I was going to do Season 3 like tomorrow and get that one knocked out, but with how I'm guessing I'm going to get a throat ache after this or something and probably lose my voice because I've been talking for so long. So maybe expect another few days, and then that'll kind of be that. Then you'll have your stuff. Thanks for listening. Leave a comment below on stuff, just anything. If you just want to have comments about things, like leave a comment, leave multiple comments if you want to kind of, as you get to different moments, you're like, wow, that was interesting, or wow, I was surprised about that. Leave comments. I'd be happy to hear different stuff. And then join our Discord so you can be informed on all kinds of cool different stuff, and check some of our posts for like memes and other things. I'm gonna go make a sandwich. I'm starving. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.